Chapter 999, The Little Genius. 999, The Little Genius. Fong Manor. Grand Secretary Fong spent the entire afternoon talking to Emperor Wu. He was a loyal subject, and the emperor had gone out of his way to show his appreciation for the old man's talent. As a result, the conversation lasted well into the night. Emperor Wu left in a great mood, and Grand Secretary Fong was just as happy. After seeing the emperor off, Grand Secretary Fong turned around to find Feng Wu and Feng Xiaoqi in his yard. "I see you have really sharp ears." Grand Secretary Fong beckoned Feng Wu over. Little Feng Wu had become his favorite person on earth. He had always known that the girl was a great talent worth teaching. Now that he was under the impression that she might have met Master Mu himself, Grand Secretary Fong couldn't control his excitement. Feng Wu chuckled. "You didn't tell His Majesty about free and easy wandering, did you?" Grand Secretary Fong rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. "Of course I didn't. So, kiddo, what are you doing here in the middle of the night?" Feng Xiaoqi said, "Here's Xiaoqi, my brother. He needs a teacher, and since you have nothing better to do, how about giving him some instructions every now and then?" Nothing better to do. Grand Secretary Fong wanted to roll his eyes again. Did the girl have any idea how popular he had just become? He was as capable as Mr. Lu now. At the moment, he could even become the actual principal instead of just the acting principal. But little Feng was asking him to babysit for her. But Grand Secretary Fong didn't turn her down. "All right, thanks for your faith in me. I'll give him the instruction he needs." Grand Secretary Fong wasn't all that interested in Feng Xiaoqi. For at Feng Xiaoqi's age, he should have already shown signs of growth. However, he was still merely a level 4 spiritual master. It was proof enough of his lack of talent. The Feng clan had used up all its luck on a genius like Feng Wu. They couldn't have another one. However, Feng Wu only grinned at Grand Secretary Fong. "Are you sure you don't want to examine your pupil?" Grand Secretary Fong rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. "There's no need." Feng Wu asked why. Grand Secretary Fong said, "Your clan already has you. There can't be another one. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair to all the other clans out there." Feng Wu chuckled. "But Xiaoqi really is a genius." Grand Secretary Fong said, "I don't believe you. If he really is a genius as you say, why is he still a level 4 spiritual master? You gotta be killing me." Feng Wu grinned. Grand Secretary Fong stared at Feng Wu, finding her grin strange. Had the girl just brought a genius to his doorstep? It couldn't be. How could the Feng clan? Taking Feng Xiaoqi's hand, Grand Secretary Fong examined him. Before his breakthrough, Grand Secretary Fong wouldn't have been able to find out what was amazing about Feng Xiaoqi, but now. A moment later, Grand Secretary Fong put his hand down and stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. He looked from Feng Wu to Feng Xiaoqi. Poor Xiaoqi. He was completely baffled by the conversation. He had no idea what was going on. Grand Secretary Fong pointed at Feng Wu with a shaking finger. This is unbelievable. Your family is..." Feng Wu smiled. "I brought you a genius, haven't I?" Grand Secretary Fong rolled his eyes at her. "If he's not a genius, who is? He has an ultimate spiritual body, the purest kind." The old man didn't know what to say. Why was the Feng clan so lucky? Chapter 1000, Master and Pupil. 1000 Master and Pupil. But how can this be? If the kid really has an ultimate spiritual body, why hasn't anyone found out about it? Why is he only a level 4 spiritual master? Feng Wu chuckled. That's because Xiaoqi only started cultivating less than a month ago. The boy had gone from scratch to level 4 in less than a month. Grand Secretary Fong was astonished. It would take any regular person at least a dozen years to reach Feng Xiaoqi's level from scratch. Those with some talent, such as Feng Lu, also had to cultivate for years before they reached level 5. But Feng Xiaoqi had been able to achieve it in a month. "You're kidding me, right?" Grand Secretary Fong stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled at Grand Secretary Fong. "I'm not. Xiaoqi didn't start cultivating until a month ago." 1 month. Grand Secretary Fong shook his head with a wry smile. The Feng clan had to be blessed. Talented youngsters just seemed to fall on their doorstep. Well, if you don't find Xiaoqi good enough, Feng Wu made a gesture to leave with Feng Xiaoqi. Hey, hey! Grand Secretary Feng panicked and stopped her. Wait, don't go. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder at Grand Secretary Feng, but the old man only reached out and took Feng Xiaoqi's hand. You can go now. Leave the kid here, Grand Secretary Feng said decisively. What a wonderful pupil. He wouldn't be able to find many young men more talented than this one. It wasn't every day that he could find such an ideal pupil, and Grand Secretary Feng was determined that he wouldn't let this one slip through his fingers. However, Feng Xiaoqi threw Grand Secretary Feng's hand off and hid behind Feng Wu. Feng Wu chuckled. Grand Secretary Feng's eyes widened. He had just become one of the top 5 cultivators in the empire. Top 5. Feng Xiaoqi, I've agreed to take you in as a pupil. Shouldn't you be on your knees and formally acknowledging me as your master now? With his hands behind his back, Grand Secretary Feng raised his chin. Feng Xiaoqi, however, tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve and gave her a pleading look. Feng Wu rubbed his head. Xiaoqi, don't you want a master? Sister, can't you teach me yourself? Feng Xiaoqi sounded disappointed. I certainly want to, but I don't have the time. Grand Secretary Feng is your best option now, in terms of his cultivation and his connections. Grand Secretary Feng rolled his eyes at Feng Wu. That was direct. The girl had said those words right in front of him. She was probably one of the few people who dared talk to him like that. Feng Xiaoqi asked, Sister, do you think I need a master? Feng Wu smiled. If you don't want to, there's no harm in hanging around Grand Secretary Feng and learning from him. Feng Xiaoqi said, Yes. Grand Secretary Feng stared at Feng Xiaoqi and Feng Wu in astonishment. Feng Wu said apologetically, Xiaoqi doesn't want a master yet. In that case, I'm afraid you'll have to bear with him. Grand Secretary Feng didn't even want to talk to Feng Wu now if it wasn't for her mysterious connection with that master, who was very likely Mu Jiuzhou. Feng Xiaoqi was too talented a boy to be left to other people. The last thing Grand Secretary Feng wanted was to see someone else become the boy's teacher. With Xiaoqi figured out, Feng Wu's mind was at ease. However, she arrived home to find Xiuling eyeing her eagerly. Feng Wu then recalled what she had told Xiuling about her cultivation. She looked into Xiuling's eyes. You made up your mind? Xiuling knelt down and prostrated herself at Feng Wu's feet. Chapter 1001, First Day. 1001 First Day. Yes, I have. Xiuling raised her head, the look on her face solemn. Feng Wu sighed inwardly. The girl didn't have to go that far. Taking a deep breath, Xiuling said in a serious tone, I want to go wherever Miss Wu goes and be there for you all the time. Xiuling had been feeling uneasy for months. Her mistress was making progress at such an unbelievable speed and growing stronger as one watched. Xiuling knew that if this went on, it would only be a matter of time before she was left so far behind that she wouldn't be able to catch up to Feng Wu even if she ran at full speed. Xiuling couldn't allow herself to remain so weak. If she didn't do something about it, she would only humiliate her mistress in the future when she got bullied again. Xiuling clenched her fists at that thought. Feng Wu kept her gaze on Xiuling for a long while. Realizing that her maid had made up her mind, Feng Wu decided that she would honor Xiuling's choice and grant Xiuling her wish. All right, I still need to make some preparations. We'll start after I get back from Imperial College tomorrow. Feng Wu had been able to transform Feng Xiaoqi into a boy with the ultimate spiritual body, and she indeed knew a way to help Xiuling. It was just that. Feng Wu said in a solemn tone, But you have to be sure about this, for there's a 50% chance that it could kill you. Xiuling nodded decisively. Feng Wu added, Moreover, after you've obtained the ultimate body, you won't be able to have babies anymore. You'll probably never get married like other women do, and cultivation and the sword are going to be all that there is for you. Xiuling said, I'll take that. Xiuling had a gentle soul, but once she made up her mind, she would stick to it, just like when she had decided to stay with Feng Wu 5 years ago. She wouldn't leave the already crippled Feng Wu then, no matter how lucrative the offer she received. Feng Wu was speechless. The following day, Feng Wu and Chaoga went to Imperial College together. School actually started 3 days ago, but Feng Wu had asked for leave because she had to work on the Tai formation. As always, Chaoga stayed with Feng Wu and didn't go to school for 3 days either. Imperial College was vast in size. It took up the entire West District, which was as large as a quarter of the imperial capital. That was proof enough of the importance which the empire placed on the college. Marble columns rose so high that they seemed to touch the sky. The walls were hundreds of meters tall and wide enough for 10 horses to run shoulder to shoulder on top of it. People looked like ants in contrast when they stood by the wall. This wasn't the first time that Feng Wu and Chaoga were visiting Imperial College. The last time they were here, they had fought Feng Sang right here in the courtyard. Today, however, all was quiet. It made sense, for everyone should be in class at the moment. We're the Year 1 classrooms. Feng Wu and Chaoga exchanged looks of bewilderment. Chaoga said, "Well, I remember where the principal's office is. Shall we go ask him?" Feng Wu was speechless. Although Grandpa Feng was the acting principal now, wasn't it a bit over the top to go to him just to ask for directions? Feng Wu looked around. Someone was bound to skip class at some point. She was sure of it. She was right. Searching the area with her spiritual essence, Feng Wu soon detected the sound of breathing behind some rocks. Walking quietly toward the spot, Feng Wu reached out and pulled the boy out of hiding. "It's you." The boy had gotten out of his class with the excuse of doing some cultivation, but was in fact taking a nap. The last thing he expected was to be caught red-handed. He jumped, opened his eyes, and saw a stunning beauty. "Why, you're Feng Wu," the teenager cried out, flushing with excitement. Feng Wu said, "You know who I am?" The teenager slapped his thigh. "How can I not know who you are? You're famous. Many people have been talking about what you did to His Royal Highness." Chapter 1002, Billboard of Newbies. 1002 Billboard of Newbies. The teenager covered his mouth when he saw the murderous look in Feng Wu's eyes and looked all innocent. I don't know anything. You didn't hear a word from me." Feng Wu glanced at him. "Cut the crap. Where are the classrooms for Year 1 students?" Year 1? Feng Wu was finally here, and she was a Year 1 student now. The teenager's eyes flickered, which indicated that he was ready for some gossip. He rose to his feet with a grin, patted the dust off his clothes, and said to Feng Wu, "Follow me. I'll show you the way." Feng Wu couldn't help but give him another look. Was it her, or was the guy gloating? Was she overthinking it? "What's your name?" Feng Wu asked in passing. "Hang Yang." "That's my name," said the teenager. "I got in last year, and you're only a newbie. It doesn't matter how famous you are outside. You still have to address me as senior brother." "For what?" Before Feng Wu said anything, Chaoga cut the guy short in a cold voice. She found his grin too smarmy and his manner too slovenly. In a word, she didn't like him at all. Hang Yang said happily, "Because of the rankings, of course." He then glanced at Feng Wu. I know. You've gotten your ability back, and you have spiritual essence now, but it hasn't been long, and cultivation can't be rushed. Plus, who can say for sure that you're still the genius you once were? Maybe you're just as ordinary as everyone else." Resting her hands on her waist, Chaoga snorted. Xiao Wu was first in both the written exam and the physical tryout. "And you call her ordinary? Are you blind or idiotic?" Hang Yang wanted to retort, but all words failed him. Because that was the truth. Feng Wu had indeed gotten first in both exams, which was unprecedented. And she got full marks in both exams, too. However, "Come with me." Hang Yang smirked and led the way in a disgruntled manner. Chaoga was bewildered. Why is he mad? Feng Wu was equally baffled. "You got me," Chaoga said. "I can beat the crap out of him with one slap, and he wants you to call him senior brother?" In his dreams. And Chaoga didn't try to keep her voice down. Vexed, Hang Yang almost tripped. So what if Feng Wu got full marks in the physical tryout? Everyone knew that she was only able to light up all 7 stars because she got lucky and received help from His Royal Highness. She just took the credit for it. It was a big school, and it took them 15 minutes to get to wherever they were going, even when they walked very fast. Hang Yang led them to the square in the year 1/4. In the center of the square stood a giant stone tablet. Numerous names had been carved into the tablet in red. The first one was none other than Si Yuan. Feng will remember that name. He was the president of Year 1 and very popular among the students. Feng Sang had a secret crush on the guy. Hang Yang gloated. This is the Year 1 billboard. Do you see your names up there? Feng Wu and Chaoga started to look for their names from the top down, which amused Hang Yang. Ha, you're so silly. Searching through the list is only going to be a waste of your time. The list contains both seniors and newbies. Feng Wu asked, seniors and newbies? Hang Yang cried out, seriously? Feng Wu, you don't know what seniors and newbies are? Feng Wu glanced at Hang Yang in bewilderment. Chapter 1003, Feng Wu is here. Chapter 1003, Feng Wu is here. Hang Yang found their ignorance unbelievable. You know Imperial College takes in exactly 100 new students every year, right? Feng Wu and Chaoga nodded in unison. Hang Yang couldn't stop boasting about his knowledge in front of the two newbies. However, there's so much to learn, and it's virtually impossible to master everything in 1 year. Normally, it takes at least 10 years for a student to complete all the courses. As a result, student numbers keep increasing in Year 1, and there are at least thousands of students in each year. Hang Yang went on. Therefore, the newly admitted students are known as newbies, and the ones from previous years are seniors. He said arrogantly, you newbies have only just gotten in. How capable can you be? There are 1,000 names on this tablet, and most of you people are in the last 100. Feng Wu looked at the end of the list and saw that most of the new students were indeed there, but not Xin Yuan, Yi, and Gong Sun Qing. Hang Yang glanced at them. There are a few good ones among the newbies this year. Yu Minji, needless to say, is one of them, but he didn't show up for the entrance test. If he did, he would have made it to the top. There's no doubt about that. Hang Yang sounded confused when he said, I've been wondering, though, Yu Minji is way overqualified for the entrance test. Hell, he's capable enough to be a graduate from the college already. Why did he have to get in as a newbie? I don't understand it. Feng Wu rubbed her nose and kept silent. Hang Yang snorted when he didn't receive a reply from Feng Wu. There are other good ones among the newbies. Look, Gong Sun Qing is the 500th and Xin Yuan Yi is even more impressive. He's the 300th. Hang Yang glanced at Feng Wu. Whereas you didn't show up for the test. Afraid, are we? Chaoga flared up right away. Hey, watch your mouth. Don't make me punch you in the face. Chaoga looked so fierce that Hang Yang didn't dare mess with her. He rubbed his nose. That didn't come from me. All the other students are talking about it. No one's convinced by your exam results. Chaoga smirked. Xiao Wu is the best. No newbie could do what Xiao Wu had done. They could never have built a Tai formation capable of withstanding the 9 cycles of the lightning tribulation. Not to mention that it was a lightning tribulation meant for some great master like Grand Secretary Feng. It was such a big deal. But now, people were laughing at Feng Wu. Chaoga couldn't stand it. Chaoga wanted to beat Hang Yang up, but Feng Wu stopped her with a wry smile. Don't bother arguing with him. It's not worth it. These people know nothing. Chaoga stomped her foot in frustration. Yes, they know nothing. But we do. So don't be mad. Feng Wu patted Chaoga on the shoulder to calm her down. Hang Yang glanced at Feng Wu. He was convinced that her magnanimity was rooted in her guilty conscience. Otherwise, why didn't she show up 3 days ago for the test? Feng Wu turned to Hang Yang. Let's go. Show us to the registration office. Feng Wu and Chaoga were here to register, for that was the first thing to do after getting into Imperial College. And that suited Hang Yang's plan. He was looking forward to Feng Wu's reaction to all the whispers and prattle. The year 1/4. Breaking news. Breaking news. A new student rushed into the area in great excitement. Feng Wu's here. I saw her checking the billboard just then, and she didn't look happy. She's coming this way. Feng Wu. That was a name full of controversy and mystery. Chapter 1004, I Dawn, T want to hear that name ever again. Chapter 1004, I Dawn, T want to hear that name ever again. The mention of Feng Wu's name was like a spell, and the carefree atmosphere in the classroom vanished. Everyone was excited. All the students in this classroom were new students this year, and there should be 100 of them in total. But right now, there were only over 90 people here. That was because Feng Wu and Chaoga weren't here, and neither were Yu Minji or Mu Yao Yao. Yu Minji had his own errands to run, whereas Mu Yao Yao, she didn't dare show up, for she had lost the bet, and was afraid that Feng Wu would ask for her head. But there were enough people here to fill the room. Yao Hao, Mu Yao Yao's minion, was the first to cry out. Yaoing didn't get in, but Yao Hao had gotten just enough marks to be admitted. What? Feng Wu's here? How dare she? Isn't she ashamed? She's unbelievable. Furious and jealous voices resonated in the classroom. Of course, Feng Wu had her supporters too, such as Gong Sunqing and Shi Xian. Before, in Proud Snowfield, Gong Sunqing had thought that she was going to die, but Feng Wu saved her life. As a result, Gong Sunqing now had complicated feelings toward Feng Wu. Shi Xian, on the other end, had turned 180 degrees in her opinion and was vexed when she heard these people slandering Feng Wu. These jealous women, they were saying all these things because they had seen Feng Wu kiss His Royal Highness. How pathetic. However, she was one of the few who could think clearly, and the majority of the students still held grudges against Feng Wu. Therefore, Feng Wu entered the classroom to find everyone staring at her in jealousy and rage. Feng Wu was at a loss. Sensing the antagonism in the air, Hang Yang was elated. Right, there you are. My mission is accomplished, and I'll leave you here. He promptly left after that. He had to get back to the seniors' quarter and spread the news. The newbies' quarter was a semi-enclosed area with a nice name, Blue Cloud Court. It was derived from a line in a poem. Fly over the blue clouds to gather the sun and the moon and pour out the East Sea to wash the universe clean. Hence, the newbies' quarter was called Blue Cloud Court and the seniors' Universe Court. Hang Yang shouted at the top of his lungs as soon as he set foot in Universe Court. Feng Wu is here in Blue Cloud Court. Let's go, people. Fame was a two-edged sword. Although Feng Wu hadn't made it into Universe Court yet, everyone had heard about what she did, especially to His Royal Highness. A lot of girls had been cursing her under their breaths. Therefore, the seniors in Universe Court stirred when they heard that Feng Wu had arrived at Blue Cloud Court. Feng Sang, isn't that Feng Wu from your clan? Feng Sang, the third daughter of the Feng clan, was one of the seniors. Right now, she was doing her best to pretend that she was immersed in her reading, but people just wouldn't stop reminding her. Feng Sang's face darkened. Guan Jing and Tao Yu were Feng Sang's best friends, and they sat down on either side of her, bombarding her with questions. Guan Jing said, Sang, Feng Wu is here. Has she really gotten her ability back? Feng Sang didn't like that question at all. Tao Yu asked, Sang, is Feng Wu going to be all right? Isn't His Royal Highness going to punish her for what she did? Feng Wu. Everyone just wouldn't shut up about that name. It was so annoying. Recalling how miserable Feng Wu had made her own family, especially her father, who had been beaten up by Feng Wu's mother. Feng Sang's face turned green. Don't ask me, Feng Sang said with a livid face. I don't want to hear that name ever again. Chapter 1005, Expel Her. Chapter 1005, Expel Her. After that, Feng Sang stormed out of the classroom with her books. The others eyed one another in amazement. How amazing that Feng Wu was able to upset Feng Sang like this. Feng Sang's name was quite high up on the stone tablet. Since they couldn't get anything from Feng Sang, the students decided to go have a look in Blue Cloud Court. It was considered the newbies' honor to be visited by seniors. Blue Cloud Court. The boisterous classroom quieted down as soon as Feng Wu walked in. Regardless of their unspoken criticism, the students were genuinely intimidated by her performance in Proud Snowfield, but some were still bold enough. For instance, Miss Ween. Feng Wu, I thought you'd been scared off. What? Now that the test is over, you're bold enough to show up at school? Feng Wu followed the voice and spotted Huiyin. Huiyin was Yi Yifei's friend, but the latter didn't even dare show up in front of Feng Wu, for she had lost that bet too. Huiyin rose to her feet, and with that, many girls also grew aggressive. Look, everyone, here's Feng Wu. She's first in both exams this year, but she didn't show up to get her cultivation level tested. We all know that she only got first in the physical tryout because of His Royal Highness. That's right. We all saw it. She didn't have one single star before that. She cast the badly injured crown prince aside and only cared about absorbing the spiritual essence for herself. I can't believe it. I'm telling you, she's obviously selfish. I can't imagine how scheming she can be. Watch out, everyone. Don't walk in her trap. Most of the accusations came from the girls. They hated Feng Wu for that kiss she gave Jun Linyuan before the physical tryout finished. Some also stood up for Feng Wu, such as Shi Xian. She had switched to Feng Wu's side after what happened in Proud Snowfield. Are you people blind? What do you mean she was only able to do it because of His Royal Highness? You've all seen the replay of the footage. Shi Xian was furious. Feng Wu saved His Royal Highness during the fall. You're confusing right and wrong. But people only smirked at her. She saved His Royal Highness? Can she say that she didn't take advantage of him? She has no shame. How dare she even show up? Yao Hao snorted. However, before he could say another word, thump, Chaga struck. She charged at Yao Hao and kicked him in the face. Before he could react, Chaga grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the ground. Thud! She tossed him right into a flower bed, smashing a lot of pots. Poor Yao Hao. He had finally cultivated a bit of fame among the newbies, but Chaga had crushed it just like that. He was utterly humiliated. A hush fell over the crowd. Fighting among students was forbidden in Imperial College, and Chaga had just broken the rule. It took a moment for someone to realize that. Oh God, Feng Wu's friend is beating another student up. That's against regulations. She should be expelled. Kick her out. Instantly, the crowd grew excited. Yao Hao and Huiyin exchanged looks, and both grinned maliciously. They had made such a scene just to set Feng Wu up, for she wasn't familiar with the school regulations yet. Chapter 1006. Feng Wu, the Murderer One. 1006 Feng Wu, the Murderer One. Mu Yao Yao and Yi Yifei, the masterminds behind these two, were hiding in their respective homes because of their earlier bets with Feng Wu. They didn't dare show up at school. That was why Yao Hao and Huiyin had tried to make a scene. They wanted to provoke Feng Wu. However, Duan Chaoga jumped out first. They could live with that. Removing Duan Chaoga would be like cutting off one of Feng Wu's arms. That was a pretty nice down payment. Since Chaoga had taken a bait, Yao Hao would make sure that she wouldn't get off the hook easily. Wretch! Yao Hao scrambled out of the flower bed, covered in blood. He had deliberately dressed himself in white today, so that the effect would be exceptionally shocking when his clothes were stained with blood. And he even punched himself in the chest. Wretch! He spat out another mouthful of blood, which had some clots in it. Someone cried out in surprise. Oh God! Yao Hao's heart has been shattered. He spat pieces of it out. Feng Wu wanted to roll her eyes at them. Even if that was the case, the pieces wouldn't come out of his stomach. Thank you. Feng Wu glanced at Huiyin. She was the one crying out. However, she was able to fool a lot of people. People believed that what they saw was Duan Chaoga taking advantage of her power to bully her fellow classmate. No, she was trying to kill him. Help! Feng Wu is killing people here. Feng Wu is killing a classmate. The news got out of Blue Cloud Court, and by the time it reached Universe Court, it had become a different story. What? Feng Wu had killed someone. Feng Sang, who hadn't gone very far, was thrilled to hear the news. She turned around and headed for Blue Cloud Court. The other students were equally excited. Onlookers always looked forward to more breaking news. Feng Wu's every move was already being scrutinized, but she was still bold enough to kill on campus in broad daylight. That was unbelievable. They had to see this. Nearly all the students of Universe Court rushed that way. Blue Cloud Court. After tossing the guy into the flower bed, Chowga patted her hands in satisfaction. But to her surprise, Yao Hao looked as if he was dying, with all his trembling and moaning. What poser! Infuriated, Chowga raised a foot to Yao Hao's chest. Everyone stared at Duan Chowga in amazement. How dare she? Everyone turned in Feng Wu's direction. All Feng Wu had to do was say the word, and Chowga would stop. As a matter of fact, she did speak. She said, "Aim 10 centimeters lower." Stomping on his heart would kill him, but kicking him in the belly wouldn't. Thud! Chowga's foot landed right on Yao Hao's stomach. Ouch! That hurt. Yao Hao curled up like a cooked shrimp, and he stared at Chowga in bafflement. And he wasn't the only one. Everyone else was staring at Chowga in disbelief as well. That was so arrogant of her. She had done it in front of everyone. I can't believe this. Who the hell does she think she is? Are they killing Yao Hao? However, Chowga didn't seem to hear them. All she could think of were the awful things Yao Hao had said about Feng Wu. Quit acting and get up. This is what you get for cursing Xiao Wu. Then, Chowga raised her foot again. Just then, a figure showed up and grabbed Chowga by the shoulder. Chowga looked over her shoulder to find a familiar face. It was Lei Kai, one of Xian Yuan Yi's minions. Duan Chowga, that's enough. Lei Kai wanted to throw Chowga out. Chapter 1007. Feng Wu, the Murderer 2. Chapter 1007. Feng Wu, the Murderer 2. Chowga smirked. Hands off me. Duan Chowga was the kind that would always fight back right away. The next second, she was throwing punches at Lei Kai. The sound of fists hitting flesh resounded in the air. Both moved at a tremendous speed. In a matter of seconds, they had struck out dozens of times. Thud! In the end, Chowga punched Lei Kai in the face. Everyone stared at Chowga in disbelief. That was incredible. Because Imperial College took in students every year, most of the Year 1 students were of similar cultivation levels. The newbies this year, for instance, were mostly Level 1 and Level 2 Spiritual Grandmasters. Lei Kai, the Level 3 Spiritual Grandmaster, was one of the better ones. However, he had just been defeated by Duan Chowga. That surprised everyone. After the test 3 days ago, Lei Kai was ranked 893 among the 1,000 on the stone tablet. Lei Kai glared at Chowga. I see why you're so arrogant now. Bring it on. With those words, Lei Kai charged at Chowga again. Chowga had made some great progress in the past few days. When Feng Wu was busy building the Tai formation, Chowga had been cultivating. Feng Wu had kept Chowga in mind all the time. When her beautiful master gave Grand Secretary Feng that free and easy wandering manual, Feng Wu had also asked for a manual for Chowga as well. Her beautiful master was excellent in figuring out one's cultivation needs. With one look, he knew what manual would suit Chowga the most. Feng Wu knew how to make a request, and of course, her master had to grant her wish. The manual Feng Wu got for Chowga was called Homage to Phoenix. With its help, Chowga's cultivation level had risen significantly. Hence, Lei Kai wasn't Chowga's match at all. Thud! Chowga raised her hand, and there was a golden flash. Roar! Lei Kai, who had believed that he would win for sure, flew backward with an angry roar. Thud! He fell to the ground with a thump. Everyone stared at Duan Chowga in disbelief. Everyone had thought it an accident when Lei Kai was struck down the first time. But now, Lei Kai lay unconscious on the ground and couldn't even stand up. It was no accident. Lei Kai had been defeated. OMG! Oh my God! How did that happen? Everyone began to shout different things. They couldn't believe this. Enhuyin was the most surprised of them all. It had seemed only yesterday when Yi Yifei and the others bullied Duan Chowga during the physical tryout. Duan Chowga had been a mere level 5 spiritual master then. How long had it been? It had only been half a month, and she was a different person now. She was more powerful than Lei Kai now. Queen couldn't believe it. She shook her head in disbelief. But that was the reality. Duan Chaoga smirked. You think you can stop me? In your dreams. After that, she made to kick Lei Kai again. These people had said bad things about Xiao Wu. She would thrash them until they shut up. Chaoga was on fire. However, just then, there was a cold voice. Kneel and apologize. Then, I might consider sparing your life. The voice was cold, distant, and cruel. It gave one the creeps. Everyone turned around. They saw a young man with long black hair step out of the crowd and walk into the clearing. Chapter 1008, Feng Wu, the Murderer 3. 1008 Feng Wu, the Murderer 3. Xian Yuan. It's Xian Yuani. He's one of the top 500-year-one students. The crowd stirred in excitement. Brother. Lei Kai clutched his stomach and struggled to his feet. He then wiped blood off his mouth. Xian Yuan, he looked from Lei Kai to Chaoga, and his eyes flickered. Kneel and beg for mercy. Feng Wu narrowed his eyes. The guy had some balls. Chaoga stared at Xian Yuan, then smirked. On my knees? You wish. Then go to hell. Xian Yuan, raised his right fist. Golden light flashed, and his fist glowed. Boom! He then charged at Duan Chaoga with his fist out at full speed. Chaoga frowned a little. She wouldn't have been able to dodge the attack a few days ago, but she had learned a great deal from Homage to Phoenix. Now, she was able to evade the strike with a quick shift in position. Xian Yuan Yi's face darkened. That was supposed to be a killing move, but it didn't have any effect. Xian Yuan, he had been confident that Duan Chaoga wasn't his match, and he thought that one strike would be enough to take her out. To his surprise, Duan Chaoga evaded his attack. Interesting. Xian Yuan, he smirked. He had never been disrespected like this before. Bone-melting strike. Xian Yuan, he went rampant. That was Xian Yuan Yi's ultimate killing move and his final card. He had never expected to use it on Duan Chaoga one day. He had to admit that Duan Chaoga was really something. By then, not only the newbies, but seniors from Universe Court had also gathered round. And the looks on their faces had changed when they saw Xian Yuan Yi's earlier move. That was awesome. Did you see that strike? He must have already reached perfection as a level 4 spiritual grandmaster. If you ask me, he's a level 5 already. Does this mean that he's good enough to be ranked in the top 300? Xian Yuan, he is so awesome. I bet he can make it into the top 200. Duan Chaoga is so dead. In fact, Chaoga had a bad feeling as well. The attack was so frightening and gave her the impression of a tidal wave. The earth was shaking, and so was her soul. She wasn't his match. Knowing that Feng Wu was much more capable than she was, Chaoga ran toward the ladder involuntarily. The moment before the fist struck down, Feng Wu gave Chaoga a tug. Thud, and Chaoga was able to evade the fist just in time. Feng Wu had pulled her out of the way. As a result, the fist landed on the wall behind them. Thud, cracks spread out on the wall like a spider web, but the wall repaired itself almost immediately as everyone watched. It was intact again in a split second. Still shaken by the narrow escape, Chaoga held Feng Wu's hand and gasped. She would have been killed if it wasn't for Feng Wu. Xian Yuan Yi, on the other hand, opened his eyes wide in disbelief. That was impossible. Bone-melting strike was his ultimate move, and someone like Chaoga should never have been able to dodge. He was sure that he had locked onto his target. What was so special about that girl? Even someone so capable hadn't noticed that Chaoga had only been able to evade his attack because Feng Wu had dragged her out of the way. Because no one was paying attention to Feng Wu, as all eyes were on Chaoga. That girl was amazing. That was what everyone was thinking about Chaoga now. Xian Yuan, he wouldn't let it drop. He smirked and was about to attack again, but stop. Chapter 1009, Feng Wu the Murderer 4. 1009 Feng Wu the Murderer 4. A teacher finally showed up. Miss Xiao Yi. The newbies greeted their teacher with great respect. Feng Wu looked in Xiao Yi's direction, and she recognized her face. When Feng Wu went to get her exam permit approved before the exam started, she had seen a few teachers in the office, and Xiao Yi had been one of them. And she had been very unfriendly toward Feng Wu even then. She was the snobbish type, and she didn't even try to hide it. As expected, the first person Xiao Yi turned to was Xianyuan Yi, and she sighed in relief when she saw that he wasn't injured. She then turned to look at Feng Wu. And Xiao Yi's first reaction was to frown at Feng Wu. What happened? Xiao Yi stared at Feng Wu with an accusing look in her eyes. She came to the conclusion right away that Feng Wu had done something wrong. Huayin reacted quickly and replied in a hurry. Feng Wu and Duan Chaoga were outrageous. Yao Hao only asked them why they didn't show up for 3 days and if they were afraid of taking the test, but they got angry and beat Yao Hao up. Xiao Yi turned to look at Yao Hao. Poor boy. It had started off as an act, but he did end up getting his ass kicked by Chaoga. His face was covered in bruises. And there's Lei Kai. All he did was speak up for Yao Hao, and they beat him until he vomited blood. Huayin said loudly. Xiao Yi then turned to Lei Kai, who still had blood on his mouth and could barely stand on his feet. Her face darkened. That explained why Xianyuan Yi was involved in the fight. Lei Kai was his buddy. Xiao Yi turned her sharp gaze on Feng Wu. Feng Wu, do you have anything to say about this? Xiao Yi glared at Feng Wu. However, Chaoga stepped out before Feng Wu could say anything. Xiao Wu has nothing to do with this. I beat these people up. I'll answer your questions. Xiao Yi narrowed her eyes. Was Duan Chaoga that capable now? You lot, follow me. Xiao Yi turned to leave. These students all had some connections, and this would be a delicate matter. However, Xianyuan said in a casual tone, Miss Xiao Yi, I'm going home now. He then turned in the other direction. It was as if he didn't hear Xiao Yi at all. Xianyuan Yi was a direct descendant of the Xianyuan clan, and his grandfather was one of the 7 bosses of Imperial College. Xiao Yi had no choice but to put up with this arrogant teenager. Not only did she have to put up with him, she even had to smile at him. Of course. Go home and get some rest. Come back when you feel better. Xianyuan Yi left before Xiao Yi could finish talking. He looked as proud as a peacock. When Xiao Yi turned back to Feng Wu and the others, her manner changed completely. The smile was gone, replaced by a furious look, especially when it was directed at Feng Wu. Get over here. However, Feng Wu was never the tolerant type. If Xianyuan Yi could leave, why couldn't she? Feng Wu smiled. Xianyuan Yi hit Chaoga. If he can leave, why can't we? After that, Feng Wu patted Chaoga. Let's go. How dare you, Feng Wu? Xiao Yi flared up. Chapter 1010. Feng Wu the Murderer 5. 1010 Feng Wu the Murderer 5. Xiao Yi could live with an unruly Xianyuan Yi, for the guy's grandfather was one of the 7 bosses of the college, which made him a prince among the students. But Feng Wu, what did she have? Well, watch me. Feng Wu smiled at Xiao Yi, not the least bit intimidated by the teacher. You. Xiao Yi was so furious that she trembled from head to toe, and her face was so twisted that her eyes popped out. She raised a hand to slap Feng Wu. However, before her hand came down, Chaoga bumped into her like an angry calf, throwing Xiao Yi off balance. Resting her hands on her waist, Chaoga bellowed, How dare you hit Xiao Wu? You're so dead. Most of the newbies were level 1 and level 2 spiritual grandmasters, and as a level 5 spiritual grandmaster, Xiao Yi was more than capable of handling them. However, there were too many abnormalities with the new students this year. First of all, there was the super genius Yu Minji. Luckily, he wasn't here today. Then there was Xianyuan Yi, who was a level 4, almost level 5, spiritual grandmaster, and with his connections, Xiao Yi could only let him do whatever he wanted. But now, there was Duan Chaoga, the uncontrollable factor. How dare you hit a teacher? Xiao Yi was almost in tears. Having taught here for so many years, She had never been treated like this. The girl had just bumped into her shoulder, but it was still numb from the pain. Chowga was the reckless type, and when she needed to protect Feng Wu, she didn't care who she was dealing with. You wanted to hit Xiao Wu. You deserved it. Try it again, and I'll slap you in the face. That was bold, and so domineering. Everyone was staring at Duan Chowga in reverence. If they had some grudges against Chowga earlier, they no longer did, for Chowga was bold enough to confront Xiao. They had seen it, too. They could tell how blatantly snobbish Xiao Yi was. That was why they were so excited to see Chowga and Feng Wu challenge Xiao Yi. But Xiao Yi was fuming. She ran it like a mad person when she saw Feng Wu and Chowga try to leave. Leave here, and you'll be expelled. Both of you. Feng Wu only smiled. I see you got a lot of power here, Miss Xiao. You've replaced the principal, have you, since you can expel students and all? The crowd burst into laughter. But they knew deep down that Feng Wu and Chowga were doomed. Xiao Yi had her connections, too, although they weren't as powerful as Xianyuan Yi's. Take them down. Just then, the school guard showed up. Xiao Yi didn't dare handle Chowga herself now, for it would be so humiliating if she failed. The guard approached the two girls with solemn looks on their faces. Chowga raised a hand, but Feng Wu shook her head at her. Exchanging blows with fellow students was one thing, but fighting the school guard would be seen as defying the college outright. Getting expelled wouldn't mean much to Feng Wu under normal circumstances, but the last time she met Jun Lin Yuan, he had told her that the second Broken Star piece was here in Imperial College. So, she wasn't going anywhere until she got that piece. Chapter 1011 Feng Wu the Murderer 6 1011 Feng Wu the Murderer 6 Let's go. Feng Wu tugged at Chowga. Given how stubborn Chowga was, she wouldn't listen to anyone but Feng Wu. She followed Feng Wu in a cheerful mood, not the least bit worried about the possibility that she might be expelled. Feng Wu, Chowga, Yao Hao, and Lei Kai followed Xiao Yi out of the classroom. Feng Wu looked into the distance at Xianyuan Yi, who had almost walked out of sight. He had nearly wounded Chowga, and he thought he could walk away just like that? Feng Wu smirked. The classroom remained boisterous after Feng Wu and the others left. The newbies and the seniors usually didn't mingle and were segregated. At the moment, however, they crowded together in animated discussion. That was incredible. That Feng Wu was bold enough to challenge Miss Xiao Yi. Does she know who Xiao Yi's father is? Mr. Xiao is the head of the Year 2 teachers. Does she want to stay in Year 1 forever? I think it's safe to say that Feng Wu and Duan Chowga will both be expelled this time, and they'll never get the chance to proceed to Year 2. They won't have to deal with Mr. Xiao after that. Feng sang, and her friend smiled. Sang, Feng Wu is going to be expelled. Ha ha ha. We won't have to see her ever again. Guanjing and her friends were thrilled. However, several boys standing next to them smiled bitterly. If Feng Wu were here, she would recognize them right away, for they were Jin Yuntao, Yuan Ming, and Yi Zhou. The three of them had met Feng Wu for the first time in World Tower. Jin Yuntao had spoken up for Feng Wu, which had earned him a reward of some top-grade spiritual stones, and that had been a gift from World Tower. On the other hand, those who had opposed Feng Wu, be it the well-connected Mu Yao Yao or the privileged royal princess, had been punished accordingly. Jin Yuntao knew there and then that Feng Wu was more than an acquaintance of His Royal Highness. Therefore, after hearing everything people had been saying about Feng Wu and the way Miss Xiao Yi treated her, he had an idea. Should he try something? At that thought, Jin Yuntao headed for the door. Where are you going? Yuan Ming and Yi Zhou ran out after him. Jin Yuntao went to World Tower. The quickest way to deliver the message was to go to the Crown Prince's residence. However, he was too unimportant to even walk through the front door. That was why Jin Yuntao went to World Tower, where he ran into the one-armed Yanyu. Other people might not think much of the message delivered by Jin Yuntao, but Yanyu thought otherwise. She had learned the hard way. She had ignored Feng Wu's influence with Jun Linyuan last time, and had ended up losing an arm. After hearing what Jin Yintao had to say, she showed him to her master immediately. Meanwhile, Feng Wu and the other three were being taken to the office of the head teacher. Xiao Yi was seething with anger. She had been offended, physically abused, and threatened in public. Very well. She wouldn't rest until Feng Wu and Duan Chaoga were expelled. What happened? Seeing the furious Xiao Yi, Yu, the head teacher of Year 1, frowned. She then saw the 4 students behind Xiao Yi. Both boys had cuts and bruises on their faces and looked like wrecks. The 2 girls, on the other hand, were tidy and poised, without a scratch on them. Yu couldn't help but give Feng Wu another look, for she recognized the latter. She was the girl who had come to have her exam permit stamped. Chief Yu, I can't handle the new students this year. I want to resign from my post. No one saw that coming. Chapter 10:12. I have no connections? Says who? Chapter 10:12. I have no connections? Says who? Resign. Yu stared at Xiao Yi. But why? Xiao Yi glared at Feng Wu and Chaoga so fiercely that she could have torn them to pieces with her eyes. There. You're a grown-up. Why so grumpy? Yu tried to calm her down. Chief Yu, do you know what they did? Xiao Yi complained to Chief Yu and told the latter what happened. You know what that Duan Chaoga did? She hit a teacher. I can't believe this. Ms. Yu frowned. The other teachers in the room looked displeased as well. As fellow teachers, they naturally took Xiao Yi's side, because they were thinking a little further ahead. If the students weren't properly disciplined this time, it could set a bad example for potential offenses in the future. What if other students started to challenge their teachers? Abominable. Mr. Gu frowned and said angrily, Unruly students like her are of no use here. She won't follow her teacher's instructions. What kind of place does she think Imperial College is? This kind of behavior won't be tolerated. Mr. Hu shook his head, a cup of tea in his hand. Unbelievable. Kids nowadays are unbelievable. They're out of control. Xiao Yi said between broken sobs. I know I'm new here, but that doesn't mean I deserve this. Chief Yu, if you won't do anything about this, I'll go to Mr. Fong. I'd like to see what he has to say about this. By Mr. Fong, Xiao Yi was referring to Grand Secretary Fong. Ms. Yu was perplexed. She knew more than Xiao Yi did. Fong Wu had been absent for 3 days, and Grand Secretary Fong had asked for leave on her behalf. He had contacted Ms. Yu himself. What did that mean? Feng Wu was well acquainted with Grand Secretary Fong. Chief Yu, aren't you going to say something? Xiao Yi stared at Ms. Yu. Feng Wu and Chaoga had to go. Ms. Yu glanced at Xiao Yi, then smiled at Feng Wu and said in a gentle voice, Feng Wu, what's your side of the story? Feng Wu smiled. We're still missing a person. I'll wait. Missing a person? Ms. Yu looked at Xiao Yi in bewilderment. Xiao Yi sneered at Feng Wu with flushed cheeks. Xin Yuan, he was only trying to help because he saw injustice. He's too busy with his cultivation to be tangled up in this nonsense. Xiao Yi then turned to Ms. Yu. All Xin Yuan did was help Lei Kai. He was busy, so I gave him permission to leave. Ms. Yu frowned. The difference in treatment was so obvious. Feng Wu smiled. I see. Xin Yuan, he took part in the fight, but he could leave freely. I didn't even lift a finger, and Miss Xiao here is trying to get me expelled. How incredible. Xiao Yi smirked. That boy had connections, and Feng Wu didn't. What more did she expect? But Xiao Yi couldn't say that out loud. She sneered at Feng Wu. Xin Yuan he is already in the top 300 on the billboard. What about you? How dare you ask for equal treatment? So, Imperial College is a school that only considers martial prowess. Facts don't matter here. Feng Wu pressed. Are you saying that if I'm first on that billboard, I can beat up anyone I like? Chapter 10:13. A fatal injury? Chapter 10:13. A fatal injury. First on the billboard, Xiao Yi snorted. That's a bold statement, given the fact that you didn't even show up for the test. How arrogant of you. Seeing that the two of them were lashing out at each other, Ms. Yu intervened. She cast a stern look at Xiao Yi. You're a grown-up, so behave like one in front of your students. Xiao Yi opened her mouth. But Mizu ignored her and turned to Feng Wu. So, what are you going to do? Looking around the office, Feng Wu found an empty chair. She pulled it to her side, sat down readily, and said in an unhurried tone, Nothing. I won't let it drop until Xianyuan Yi is here. Excuse me. Xiao Yi was already disgruntled when Feng Wu took the chair, which in fact belonged to her. The girl's statement completely set her off. You won't let it drop until Xianyuan Yi is here? Xiao Yi sneered at Feng Wu. Humor me. Feng Wu only smiled at her and remained unperturbed. Yu had no choice but to ask around. Before long, she was able to put together what happened. And she frowned. It was now between a student under Grand Secretary Feng's wing and a family member of Elder Xianyuan. What a difficult choice to make. She had to be diplomatic and try to defuse the spat before it got worse. Yu glanced at Xiao Yi. It was a light altercation between students. Surely, it wasn't anything worth expelling them over. Yao Hao had been studying Yu's face, and he didn't like what he saw. The teacher was obviously on Feng Wu's side. He had to look more severely injured otherwise. Wretch! Yao Hao had been trembling, but now he fell to the ground and began to vomit blood. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which stained the lower hem of Yu's skirt. With a shaking hand, he grabbed a corner of Yu's skirt and squeezed out some pleading words. Ms. Help, will the school get even for me? Yao Hao passed out after that. Yao Hao! Xiao Yi was thrilled to see Yao Hao pass out. She rushed over to him and put a trembling finger under his nose. She jolted. Oh no, Yao Hao isn't breathing. Yao Hao's dead. The news flew out of the office as if it had wings, and it quickly spread to the Year 1 quarter. Year 1 and Year 2 had classrooms in separate locations, and the two groups had very limited contact. Nearly all the Year 1 students had gathered in Blue Cloud Court in animated discussion, trying to figure out what kind of punishment Feng Wu and Xiaoga would receive. However, he's really dead. Wasn't Yao Hao walking around just then? How can he be dead all of a sudden? Duan Xiaoga kicked him in all his vital parts. I bet that's what killed him. The atmosphere in Blue Cloud Court was filled with anxiety. Mu Yao Yao and Yi Yifei, who had been hiding in the dark, let out breaths of relief. Finally, things are looking up for them. Let's go. Mu Yao Yao and Yi Yifei headed for the head teacher's office with their arms linked together. Feng Wu, you're dead. Feng Wu didn't expect to run into so much trouble when she arrived at Imperial College this morning to register. With everything that had happened, she was displeased. Chapter 1014, Xiao Wu, I didn't kill him. Chapter 1014, Xiao Wu, I didn't kill him. However, she still managed to put on an indifferent smile, despite her reluctance. At that moment, everyone was concerned about Yao Hao's condition. After all, the accident took place in Imperial College, and the school would have to take responsibility for the consequences. Yu cried out, Go get a doctor. Get Master Duanmu here. Mr. Gu jumped to his feet. I'll go get him. Yao Hao was still vomiting blood, and they didn't dare move him. Mr. Gu rushed out of the office immediately. He only realized, after a moment, that he had a communication jade on him. Smacking his forehead, he took it out and called Master Duanmu's assistant. Someone as prominent as Master Duanmu would be too proud to talk directly to a common teacher like Gu Yi. Master, someone has been fatally wounded in the Year 1 quarter, and the student is said to have stopped breathing. They need you there. The assistant was Meng Chu, a pretty girl from Year 2. Master Duanmu's eyes flickered when he recalled the favor Mu Yao Yao had asked of him the day before. Mr. Feng, the current acting principal, was Mu Yao Yao's grandfather, and Master Duanmu wanted to jump on Feng's bandwagon so that he could move further up the food chain. With the help of his walking stick, he rose to his feet. Let's go. The Year 1 head teacher's office. Xiao Yi was screaming. Yao Hao's dead. Yao Hao's really dead. Feng Wu. Duan Xiaoga. You killed him. Hey, take them down. Don't let them run away. The school guards had been waiting outside, and they were prepared to enter the building when they heard Xiao Yi's voice. Mizu cast a stern look at them. Stay where you are. Do you want to create an even bigger scene? Xiao, he stared at Mizu. But Mizu, if the two of them escape, where can they possibly go? Mizu rolled her eyes at Xiao. The young teacher had seemed so docile before, but she had done nothing but add to the confusion here. Mizu didn't take Xiao Yi's words for granted. She crouched down next to Yao Hao and examined him with her spiritual essence. It was true. His breath was undetectable, and he appeared to be dead. But he was still alive, although barely. I found his pulse. We may still be able to save him if Master Duanmu gets here in time, Mizu said anxiously. She looked around the room, and her gaze landed on Feng Wu. To her surprise, Feng Wu didn't look the least bit flustered or perplexed. How was that even possible? Mizu stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Her friend had practically killed a person because of her, and they would be considered murderers if Yao Hao died. According to the regulations of Imperial College, killing a fellow student was punishable by death, and what was more, they would face the most ruthless penalty. Even with Grand Secretary Feng's support, the girl shouldn't be this arrogant. Where did her confidence come from? Feng Wu sat there, perfectly calm. She even had the mood to flip through a book, as if none of this concerned her. But Duan Xiaoga was uneasy. Xiao Wu, I didn't kill him. Despite her tough appearance, Xiaoga was a gentle girl deep down. She bit her lower lip and whispered in Feng Wu's ear. I know. Feng Wu patted Xiaoga on the shoulder. Seeing how confident Feng Wu was, Xiaoga calmed down too. Hasty footsteps came from outside at that moment. Yao Hao, are you all right? Chapter 10-15, Ups and Downs 1. Chapter 10-15, Ups and Downs 1. Mu Yaoyao arrived with Yi Yifei, followed by another person. It was Yao Ying, whom Feng Wu had beaten up before, and she was Yao Hao's own sister. In a moment like this, Yao Hao's family member came in handy for Mu Yaoyao. Mu Yaoyao rushed toward Yao Hao with an astonished look on her face. Yao Hao, are you all right? Wake up. Mu Yaoyao cried out, knelt down, and called at the top of her lungs. Yao Ying looked devastated. Brother, talk to me. Wake up. Please wake up. Yao Ying was trembling from head to toe, and her face was streaked with tears. She looked like she was going to have a nervous breakdown. However, no matter how loudly she called, Yao Hao remained motionless, his face as bloodless as a dead person's. Mu Yaoyao bolted upright and looked indignantly at Xiao Yi. Miss Xiao Yi, what happened? Everything was fine this morning. Why is Yao Hao like this? Eyes wide open, Mu Yaoyao grabbed Xiao Yi by her shoulders and shook the latter violently. Xiao Yi almost lost her balance, but she only turned to stare at Feng Wu and pointed her finger at the latter. It was Feng Wu and Duan Xiaoga. They did this to Yao Hao, and that was what Mu Yaoyao had been waiting for. She glared at Feng Wu with her chest stuck out, and her tone oh so righteous. That was right. She had planned everything. Since the bet with Feng Wu would have gotten Mu Yaoyao killed, Mu Yaoyao had set Feng Wu up to kill Yao Hao. That way, Feng Wu would have to pay with her life, and Mu Yaoyao would remain safe. That was Mu Yaoyao's plan, but she still managed to look devastated. Feng Wu, how could you do this? You killed Yao Hao. Mu Yaoyao bellowed. Yao Ying had almost passed out. Brother. She rushed over to Yu Yu and wrapped her arms around the teacher's leg. Ms. Yu, say something. You can't let the murderers go free. Yu Yu felt she was getting a headache. After finally silencing that Xiao Yi out this. Then there was Mu Yaoyao. Yu Yu found Mu Yaoyao even more troublesome, for she was the granddaughter of Mr. Feng, the acting principal. Before, Yu Yu could still side with Feng Wu, but now that the principal's granddaughter was here, Yu didn't think that the old man would favor Feng Wu over his granddaughter. Just then, footsteps came from outside again. They turned around to find an old man with his young, pretty assistant. Master Duanmu. Everyone cried out in surprise. Yu Yu was delighted. Master Duanmu, thank God. Please have a look at Yao Hao. Master Duanmu looked around the room and exchanged quick looks with Mu Yaoyao. It happened so briefly that most people didn't notice it. However, Feng Wu did, for she had her eyes fixed on Mu Yao Yao the entire time. Interesting. As expected, Master Duanmu shook his head after examining Yao Hao only briefly. He had a pitiful look on his face. Master Duanmu, Yao Ying stared at the doctor. And she wasn't the only one. Almost everyone was staring at Master Duanmu. His verdict could determine the fate of several people. His internal organs have been shattered, his heart has stopped, and he's barely breathing. It's too late, said Master Duanmu in a deeply grieved tone. After giving his conclusion, he shook his head, rose to his feet, and was prepared to leave. Chapter 1016, Ups and Downs 2. Chapter 1016, Ups and Downs 2. And those words were like a sudden clap of thunder in their ears. Yao Hao was really dead. Instantly, all eyes were on Feng Wu and Chaoga. Murderers! Arrest them! A life for a life. The clamor of everyone talking at the same time seemed to drown Feng Wu and Chaoga like a tidal wave. A team of college guards also rushed in to arrest the culprits. Chaoga blocked their way, bellowing, "What are you doing? Take me. Xiao Wu has nothing to do with this. I'll take full responsibility." How she hated these people. They just wouldn't leave Xiao Wu alone when it was she who had beaten Yao Hao up. However, all these people, Xiao, Yi, and Mu Yao Yao alike, had been targeting Feng Wu all along. They couldn't care less about Chaoga. Amidst all the chaos, Xiao Yi gave an order. Arrest them both. The guards then reached out to grab Feng Wu and Chaoga. Thump! Chaoga kicked them away. What? Everyone cried out in surprise. These were the college guards, and Duan Chaoga had just confronted them openly. Did she have a death wish? Stop! Ms. Yu frowned. Here in this room, Chief Yu called the shots. She gave the order. Arrest Duan Chaoga. What about Feng Wu? Mu Yao Yao, Yi Yifei, Yao Ying, and Xiao Yi cried out in unison. Ms. Yu snapped. Did you see Feng Wu do anything? Mu Yao Yao said, but Ms. Yu waved her off. It was indeed she who started the whole thing, but it was also true that she didn't do anything. So, arrest Duan Chaoga and wait for further instructions from the college. Du Chaoga had killed a fellow student in public, and she would probably have to pay with her own life. Ms. Yu glanced at Feng Wu. That was all the help she could give Feng Wu. Unless some miracle happened now, Duan Chaoga was going to die. Mu Yao Yao wasn't reconciled to this. She had set the trap for Feng Wu, but Duan Chaoga was the one who took the bait. Mu Yao Yao clenched her fists. Well, better than nothing. The school guards rushed in and acted quickly. They surrounded Chaoga in no time. Feng Wu frowned. She had kept her silence so far, and these people just acted as if she wasn't there. Feng Wu smiled. Stop. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was authoritative and couldn't be ignored. All eyes turned in her direction. Feng Wu asked quietly, What gives you the right to arrest Chaoga? The school guards exchanged bewildered looks. The others stared at Feng Wu in amazement as well. Mu Yao Yao smirked. Who gave you the courage to say those words? Feng Wu, who the hell do you think you are? Feng Wu didn't answer her. To be more precise, she ignored Mu Yao Yao. Staring at Yao Hao, who was lying on the ground, Feng Wu snorted. Yao Hao isn't dead. Impossible. Mu Yao Yao and Master Duanmu cried out in unison. Especially Mu Yao Yao. She stared at Feng Wu and sneered at the latter. Master Duanmu also stared at Feng Wu. He's dead, and that's my conclusion. How can you say otherwise? Feng Wu said, He's not dead. Master Duanmu said, He is. Feng Wu said, He's not dead. Enraged, Master Duanmu ignored Feng Wu and turned to Ms. Yu instead. Why did you invite me here if you won't believe me? I'm leaving. Master Duanmu turned to leave. Ms. Yu frowned. Feng Wu. Chapter 1017, Ups and Downs 3. Chapter 1017, Ups and Downs 3. Ms. Yu had been putting up with Feng Wu's nonsense until then, but the kid only repaid her with even more of a farce. Despite her usually mild temper, Ms. Yu had become vexed. Feng Wu shook her head. Chaoga didn't hit him hard. The force she used couldn't have killed anyone. Mu Yao Yao smirked inwardly. Indeed, Chowga couldn't have, but Mu Yao Yao had her whole plan. Yao Hao had to die today. Mu Yao Yao feigned a furious tone and stared at Feng Wu. He stopped breathing. You're going to pay with your life. Feng Wu glanced at Mu Yao Yao. She was anything but stupid, and she had realized what Mu Yao Yao wanted after the latter mentioning paying with her life repeatedly. Mu Yao Yao was trying to call off that bet. As expected, Mu Yao Yao moved closer and whispered in a threatening voice. Destroy that paper with a bet on it, and I may let you live. She was right. However, Feng Wu only darted a look at Mu Yao Yao. You'll beg for my forgiveness in a moment. Feng Wu was amazed by how emboldened these people were. Were they seriously trying to poison someone when she, the master of poison, was around? When she was only 5, she already knew of every poison known to man. That little red pill she had created, the laxative, was still sold widely across the Junwu Empire. Mu Yao Yao still had a lot to learn if she wanted to conceal a poison from Feng Wu. Mu Yao Yao snorted inwardly after Feng Wu rejected her offer. So, the girl would rather learn the hard way. However, Feng Wu had walked up to Yao Hao and started working on him with her pale green light. Dots of green light then seeped into his body through his forehead. Master Duanmu was astonished. What Feng Wu was doing was completely out of his expectations, because that green light was a treatment method only practiced by supreme-level medicine refiners. In other words, this teenage girl was a supreme-level medicine refiner. That was preposterous. Master Duanmu refused to admit it. More green light flew out of Feng Wu's hands, and they covered Yao Hao's entire body. Was there going to be a miracle? Everyone stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. However, Mu Yao Yao smirked the entire time. She had planned everything out. Yao Hao had agreed to take a medicine that would make him appear dead. He could come back to life after Mu Yao Yao got the bet called off. However, Yao Hao didn't know that Mu Yao Yao hadn't told him the whole truth. Knowing what an amazing Dr. Feng Wu was, Mu Yao Yao had used a real poison on Yao Hao, which would actually kill him. That was why Mu Yao Yao was so pleased when Feng Wu tried to save Yao Hao. Yao Hao had no chance. She was right. 1 minute passed. 3 minutes. 5 minutes. Yao Hao still lay there with his eyes closed. His face was emotionless, and he still wasn't breathing. It seemed that Yao Hao really was dead. Stop it. Don't touch my brother. Yao Ying rushed out and charged at Feng Wu. Mu Yao Yao gloated. However, just before Yao Ying made contact with Feng Wu, green light appeared all over Feng Wu and sparked to life like a protective shield. Yao Ying looked like she had bumped into a wall, and she bounced off the shield. Thump! She was flung back as she smashed into a wall. There was a loud crack, and Yao Ying cried out in pain. Chapter 1018, Ups and Downs 4. Chapter 1018, Ups and Downs 4. That's enough. Ms. Yu picked Yao Ying up and steadied her. She then frowned at Feng Wu. You can get up now. But Feng Wu ignored her. She then started pressing Yao Hao's acupoints as quickly as she could manage. 3 more left to go, and then... Feng Wu, that's enough. Yu Yu is genuinely angry now. He's already dead. Is it that difficult to show him some respect? Feng Wu looked perfectly calm. He's not dead. However, her statement only received more stares. The length she would go to have Duan Chaoga exonerated. Did she think the others here couldn't tell a dead person from a living one? How could she? Yu Yu had thought about cutting Feng Wu loose for the sake of Grand Secretary Feng, but she was infuriated by how unreasonable Feng Wu was. Have Feng Wu arrested. The girl wouldn't leave a victim's body alone, and had injured the victim's family member. What Feng Wu had done was abominable. The school guards had been standing by, and they were going to charge if Feng Wu win. What's all this? What do you think you're doing? A familiar voice came from outside. Feng Wu had been feeling uneasy, but she relaxed a little at that voice. She had reached the critical moment of her treatment, and she might not be able to revive Yao Hao if she was interrupted. Priest Wu had shown up just in time. Yes, it was none other than the priest Wu Feng Wu knew. Priest Wu hadn't known about this at first, for as one of the 7 bosses of the college, he hardly ever set foot in the year 1 quarter. But then he heard that Feng Wu was here in Imperial College, and thought he should pop in a checkup on her. Maybe he could persuade her to join the formations department. However, he was shocked by the news as soon as he arrived. What? Little Feng Wu had killed someone. Killing a fellow student was punishable by death. Fearing that Feng Wu would be bullied, Priest Wu arrived as soon as he could. He got there just in time. The crowd turned around, and they reacted differently to the presence of Priest Wu. Students like Yaoing were too new on campus to recognize Priest Wu, but Yu and Master Duanmu knew better. Priest Wu was the boss of the formations department and one of the 7 bosses. He was as famous as Elder Xianyuan. Yu looked around at the mess, which was giving her a headache. However, she had no choice but to greet him with a wry smile. "Sir, to what do we owe this honor? You must have a lot of work to do." With his hands behind his back, Priest Wu strolled over. He looked at the crowd and was displeased by what he saw. It was obvious that most of these people were against Feng Wu. "I was around and I heard the noise. I thought I should pop in." Priest Wu pretended that he was just passing by. He said grumpily, "What's this about?" The man was one of the 7 bosses whom students in year 1, 2, and 3 had no opportunity to meet. Only a handful of very lucky students could learn from him, and the little amount he taught could benefit them greatly. To the students, all 7 bosses were as unreachable as deities. Yu didn't dare to take the man lightly, and hurriedly told him what happened. The old man flared up right away. "Nonsense! What did he mean?" Everyone looked curiously at the old man. Chapter 1019. What gave him the courage? Chapter 1019. What gave him the courage? Priest Wu snorted. "If little Feng Wu says she can save him, then he's not dead. What are you doing hovering around her like this? You're getting in her way. Are you going to take responsibility when he really dies?" Little Feng Wu? That sounded intimate. Yu was suddenly struck with realization. That was it. 3 bosses had signed Feng Wu's exam permit, and they were Mr. Liu, Grand Secretary Feng, and Priest Wu. Yu couldn't help but dart another look at Feng Wu. The girl was much more well-connected than she seemed. Priest Wu was obviously taking Feng Wu's side, but the other people didn't dare to say that out loud. However, at that moment, "Old Wu, what are you doing here in the martial arts department?" Someone spoke in an indifferent voice. Another one. Yu turned around and saw that it was Elder Xianyuan. Not only was Xianyuan Kun the grandfather of Xianyuan Yi, he was also the head of the martial arts department. That was to say, he was in charge of all students of the department from year 1 to year 4. Everyone was baffled to see Xianyuan Kun here. What was going on today? Why did the mysterious bosses keep showing up? They all greeted Xianyuan Kun. Elder Xianyuan nodded, then scanned the crowd with a stern look on his face. His gaze landed on Feng Wu in the end. "What's going on?" Elder Xianyuan was Yu's direct supervisor, so she immediately told him what happened. However, the fact that Xianyuan Kun showed up here meant that he already knew what was going on. Feng Wu, Xianyuan Kun's eyes glinted, and he had a stern look on his face. How outrageous! School has just started, and something like this has already happened in my department. Those who have killed will pay with their lives. Arrest them and lock them up. They'll wait for the death penalty there. The school guards followed Xianyuan Kun's order and charged out. "Stop!" Priest Wu stepped in. "So, Old Wu, are you going to interfere with how I run my department now?" Xianyuan Kun sneered at Priest Wu. Priest Wu said, "We don't know what happened yet. Elder Xianyuan, you can't sentence someone to death just like this." Feng Wu had left a good impression on Priest Wu, for her formation skills were as good as his. It would be such a pity if she was killed just like this. Priest Wu didn't want to lose such a talented student, which was why he wouldn't give in. "That boy is dead. What more do you need to know?" "Elder Wu, you've stepped out of line," Xianyuan Kun said coldly. He knew who Feng Wu was and realized how capable she was. Before he came here, someone had asked him, with Feng Wu around, would Xianyuan stand a chance? Would people remember who Xianyuan was? That question stirred him like a stone thrown into a still lake. That question was also why Xianyuan Kun had gotten here in a hurry. He wanted to use this chance to get rid of Feng Wu. However, he didn't expect to find Priest Wu here. Instead of staying in his formations department, the guy was bold and upright and was confronting him. Who gave him the courage? People looked from Xianyuan Kun to Priest Wu and were baffled. Whose order should they follow? Elder Xianyuan bellowed. Those who have killed should pay with their own lives. Yao Hao is dead, and the two of you will answer for your crime. No one can break the rules of this school. As he spoke, Elder Xianyuan raised a hand. Chapter 1020. Feng Wu is in trouble. Chapter 1020. Feng Wu is in trouble. As he spoke, Elder Xianyuan waved his hand in Feng Wu's direction. A vine as thin as a thread flew toward Feng Wu. Sensing the danger, Feng Wu moved quickly and hid behind Priest Wu. She was as nimble as a cat. That was because she had noticed that the thin vine had leaves with serrated edges. She would be a dead body by now if she hadn't acted quickly enough. Xianyuan Kun. Enraged, Priest Wu stared at Elder Xianyuan with bloodshot eyes. Elder Xianyuan didn't look any better. His face had turned livid. Elder Xianyuan said, "Priest Wu, you're not meddling in the affairs of my department. The door's right over there. You can show yourself out." Priest Wu asked, "What if I say no?" Elder Xianyuan replied, "Then I'll have to remove you from the scene." After that, Elder Xuanyuan's hand landed on Priest Wu. Both big shots were members of the education committee and were highly capable cultivators. If a fight started between them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Luckily, not many people were here, and the news hadn't gotten out yet. Yu had a bad feeling about this. She shot warning glances at Mr. Hu and Mr. Gu. Go ask Grand Secretary Fong for help. If the two bosses here really got into a fight, how would the students of the martial arts of formations departments face each other? Students were supposed to combine their skills in martial arts and formations in year 2. Mr. Hu reacted quickly and dashed out of the room as soon as he got Chief Yu's hint. The principal's office. Grand Secretary Fong wasn't there. Mr. Hu was going to head for Grand Secretary Fong's house when he saw an old man strolling in his direction, followed by a good-looking boy. As Grand Secretary Fong walked, he pointed around at the school lawn, teaching the boy the names of the plants. The boy with Grand Secretary Fong was none other than Feng Xiaoqi himself. Grand Secretary Fong had had no interest in Feng Xiaoqi at first, but after he found out about the boy's ultimate spiritual body, he was thrilled. He couldn't wait to take the boy in as his pupil. However, the boy only listened to his sister. He did whatever Feng Wu told him. Feng Wu had said that he wouldn't need a master yet, and the boy followed her order, not acknowledging Grand Secretary Fong as his master. What choice did the old man have? He could only take the boy with him, hoping that he could subtly influence the boy and make him realize that Grand Secretary Fong was indispensable. Usually, it was the pupils that had to go through a probation period. But in this case, it was the other way round. The master himself was being tested. What choice did the old man have? Just as Grand Secretary Fong was patiently showing Feng Xiaoqi all the plants. Mr. Fong, help! Grand Secretary Fong looked up at the man. He wore the teacher's uniform of Imperial College, but Grand Secretary Fong didn't recognize his face. And you are? Mr. Fong. I'm Hu Fong, a teacher from year 1, but that's not the point. I'm here because Mr. Xianyuan and Mr. Wu are fighting. What? Grand Secretary Fong was shocked. Those two didn't see eye to eye, but they had never confronted each other openly. How? Mr. Xianyuan wants to kill Feng Wu. Mr. Wu got straight to the point. What? Before Grand Secretary Fong could do anything, Feng Xiaoqi blanched and rushed over to Mr. Hu. Where is she? Tell me. Where? Mr. Hu didn't know who the kid was, but Grand Secretary Fong was holding his hand. Chapter 1021, A Special Kid. Chapter 1021, A Special Kid. But Mr. Fong was holding the kid's hand, so the kid couldn't be ordinary. Mr. Hu showed Feng Xiaoqi the direction right away. The next second, Feng Xiaoqi ran off at a tremendous speed. Xianyuan Kuan wants to kill Feng Wu. Grand Secretary Feng's face darkened. Why? Grand Secretary Feng turned in the direction of the year 1/4 as he spoke. Mr. Wu then described what had happened so far. Elder Xianyuan said Feng Wu had to pay with her own life for killing Yao Hao, but Mr. Wu wouldn't have it, so nonsense. Grand Secretary Feng's face turned livid. The next second, Grand Secretary Feng dashed out of sight. Mr. Hu scratched his head. So, who was Grand Secretary Feng angry at? Mr. Xianyuan or Mr. Wu? By then, Feng Xiaoqi had arrived at the scene. Sister! Feng Xiaoqi charged into the room like a cannonball and threw himself into Feng Wu's arms. Sister, are you all right? Did someone hit you? I'm going to kill them. Thin and fair, the boy didn't have much spiritual essence about him, but he then turned around and glared at Elder Xianyuan. The look in his eyes reminded one of a young, angry beast, and it could shake one to the bone. The boy's eyes were so clean and bright that they seemed to brighten up the world. Even someone as powerful as Elder Xianyuan was shaken by those eyes. Who are you? All eyes were on Feng Xiaoqi. I'm Feng Wu's brother. Anyone who messes with her has to answer to me. The teenager glared at the old man. Mu Yaoyao recognized Feng Xiaoqi right away, which only brought a mocking smile to her face. Feng Xiaoqi, who the hell do you think you are? You don't call the shots here. Mu Yaoyao snorted. She then tried to grab Feng Xiaoqi so that she could throw him out. Get the hell out of here. But Feng Xiaoqi wasn't the same boy that he used to be. With a quick shift of his body, he easily dodged Mu Yaoyao's hand. He's no ordinary teenager. Elder Xianyuan studied Feng Xiaoqi, feeling that there was something different about the kid. Mu Yaoyao smirked. If that were true, Feng Xiaoqi wouldn't still be a good-for-nothing at this age. A good-for-nothing? Elder Xianyuan frowned. Well, if that was the case, he wasn't concerned anymore. Take him away. Elder Xianyuan grew impatient. This was meant to be a petty incident, but it seemed to last forever. Soon, the school guards charged at them. Wait, Priest Wu was going to interfere when he heard a familiar voice. It was Grand Secretary Feng. Everyone was astonished, especially Xianyuan Kuan and Priest Wu, who had more information than the others. They knew about the lightning tribulation which Grand Secretary Feng had gone through during his breakthrough, which was why they thought that he should be at home, consolidating his achievements so far. The last thing they expected was to find him here. Elder Xianyuan had been reluctant to work under Grand Secretary Feng. After Mr. Zhua was removed from his position, Elder Xianyuan was convinced that he would get the job, but Grand Secretary Feng had gotten it instead. Elder Xianyuan had been unreconciled to it ever since. Keeping his gaze on Grand Secretary Feng, Elder Xianyuan reached out with his spiritual essence, trying to feel out Grand Secretary Feng's current cultivation level. But his spiritual essence barely touched Grand Secretary Feng when Grand Secretary Feng's powerful spiritual essence smashed down like a tidal wave. Elder Xuanyuan's spiritual essence dissipated immediately. That hurt. Elder Xianyuan blanched in pain, feeling as if his brain had been struck by lightning. Chapter 1022 Shocked 1. Chapter 1022 Shocked 1. That was incredible. Grand Secretary Feng used to be about the same cultivation level as Elder Xianyuan. The latter even believed that he was better. But what happened just then astonished him. Grand Secretary Feng then darted an indifferent glance at Elder Xianyuan. In that moment, Elder Xianyuan felt as if his soul had been pierced through. How frighteningly powerful Grand Secretary Feng was. How much stronger had he become after that breakthrough? Elder Xianyuan panicked. Mr. Feng. The others all greeted Grand Secretary Feng. Grand Secretary Feng glanced at Feng Xiaoqi, then waved at the boy. Come over here. Feng Xiaoqi knew what a capable cultivator Grand Secretary Feng was, so he ran up to him in a hurry, tugged at his sleeve, and said eagerly, Hey, that man wants to hurt my sister. Can you kill him for me? Those words he said, they shocked everyone, because Feng Xiaoqi was pointing at none other than Elder Xin Yuan, the head of the martial arts department. Everyone drew in their breaths. The brat had crossed the line. Meanwhile, they all recalled what Mu Yaoyao had said just then. Feng Xiaoqi was Feng Wu's brother. That was to say, everyone looked from Feng Wu to Grand Secretary Feng in amazement, and realized that Feng Wu was more well-connected than they realized. After all, her brother was hanging out with Grand Secretary Feng. Yu let out a sigh of relief as well, convinced that Grand Secretary Feng favored Feng Wu because of her brother. But what was so special about this boy? What did the principal see in him? Everyone was baffled. Just then, the look on Elder Xuanyuan's face changed. You. Elder Xianyuan stared at Feng Xiaoqi. You have an ultimate spiritual body. What? Ultimate spiritual body? Just when they thought that they had enough shocks for one day, there was more. Ultimate spiritual body. Less than a handful of people in the whole of the Junwu Empire were found to have ultimate spiritual bodies. Even those with a semi-ultimate spiritual body would attract fierce competition from clans and forces, all trying to win them to their sides. A boy with an ultimate spiritual body had just shown up here at the college. Whoosh! Instantly, all eyes were on Feng Xiaoqi. They studied Feng Xiaoqi's good-looking face, big bright eyes, and translucent skin. He glanced at Elder Xianyuan, rested his hands on his waist, then snorted. What does my ultimate spiritual body have anything to do with you? So, it was true. Feng Xiaoqi really had an ultimate spiritual body. Shocked, Mu Yaoyao stood there with an open mouth and stared at Feng Xiaoqi in disbelief. That's impossible. Mu Yaoyao was the first to jump out and point at Feng Xiaoqi. She was irritated. If that's the case, why is your cultivation level still so low? You must be lying. However, Elder Xianyuan had rushed over to take Feng Xiaoqi's hand. You're a bad man. Let go of me. Let go. Feng Xiaoqi kicked and scratched, but couldn't throw Elder Xianyuan off. Elder Xuanyuan's grip on Feng Xiaoqi's hand was so tight, and blue veins popped on his temple. All eyes were on Elder Xianyuan. The old man didn't reply, but only stared at Feng Xiaoqi. Kiddo, do you want to join the Xianyuan clan? Don't worry. You don't have to do anything. Just say yes, and you'll become an honored guest of the clan. Everyone stared at him in bewilderment. Chapter 1023, Shocked. 2. Chapter 1023, Shocked. 2. Elder Xianyuan wouldn't let go of Feng Xiaoqi, nor would he stop talking, and he looked so excited. That was to say, he meant it. Look at how agitated he was. That was to say, Feng Xiaoqi really had an ultimate spiritual body. Mu Yaoyao stared at Feng Xiaoqi in disbelief. Her eyes popped out. How could that be possible? She couldn't believe it. Feng Xiaoqi was so protective of Feng Wu. Imagine how arrogant Feng Wu would be after Feng Xiaoqi reached his full potential. Mu Yaoyao clenched his fists, and the look in her eyes was indescribable. Feng Xiaoqi glared at Elder Xianyuan. You're hurting me. Grand Secretary Feng threw an indifferent look at Elder Xianyuan. Elder Xianyuan, that's enough. He took Elder Xianyuan by the wrist as he spoke. At Grand Secretary Feng's touch, Elder Xianyuan felt as if an electric current had run through his wrist, and his arm went numb from the pain. Petrified, he had no choice but to let go of Feng Xiaoqi. As soon as he was free, Feng Xiaoqi ran over to Grand Secretary Feng and held the latter by the sleeve. He then stuck his head out from behind the old man. Grand Secretary Feng got straight to the point. He asked, Feng Wu, what happened here? Feng Wu shrugged. It's pretty straightforward. In short, Mu Yaoyao owes me her life. She tried to get Yao Hao to provoke me, but I didn't take the bait. Chao fell for it instead and hit Yao Hao. Yao Hao then faked his death, and Mu Yaoyao thought she could use this to force me to cancel our bet. That way, we would be even. Feng Wu described the whole thing in an indifferent tone. Instantly, all eyes were on Mu Yaoyao. Mu Yaoyao blanched. Behind her, Yi Yifei was already stepping back, trying to put some distance between her and Mu Yaoyao. But Mu Yaoyao was never going to admit it, in spite of the fact that Feng Wu was telling the truth. She glared at Feng Wu anxiously. What the hell are you talking about? I didn't use Yao Hao for anything. Duan Chaoga killed him. Feng Wu asked, did she? Mu Yao Yao snorted. Yao Hao has stopped breathing for a long while. Of course he's dead. Feng Wu, I can't believe what bullshit you can come up with to escape responsibility. Feng Wu said, poor Yao Hao. He never knew that you gave him a lethal poison. All this time, you told him that it was only going to be an act. Yaoing stared at Mu Yao Yao. She recalled how, when her brother got back home yesterday, he told her that he was going to help Princess Mu with something. Once it was done, the Yao family would be further up the social ladder, and by then, the two of them would have a much easier life. But her brother had shown no intention of dying. Sensing Yao Ying's questioning look, Mu Yao Yao felt her heartbeat quicken. She pointed at Feng Wu. You're throwing the first accusation you can think of at me. Do you think anyone is going to believe you? That's ridiculous. Ridiculous or not, we'll see soon enough. Feng Wu smiled. What you told Yao Hao was that he would take secret bone blood and pretend to be dead for a while. After everything blows over, he can be revived and walk under the sun again. Feng Wu went on. But in fact, what you gave him was secret crow bone blood. The names are very similar, but the effects can't be any more different. Secret bone blood can fake death, but secret crow bone blood is a lethal poison. Mu Yao Yao, what's happening to Yao Hao is very real. Mu Yao Yao was losing ground. No, I did no such thing. You're lying. Feng Wu said, yes, you did. You still have that secret crow bone blood on you. Chapter 1024 Shocked. 3. Chapter 1024 Shocked. 3. Involuntarily, Mu Yao Yao reached for her chest pocket. When she realized what she had done, it was too late. Everyone had seen it. Just then, the school guards had let their guard down and loosened their grips on Duan Chaoga, who seized the chance to jump into the air and kick Mu Yao Yao in the back. Caught by surprise, Mu Yao Yao fell forward. Feng Wu and Duan Chaoga could practically read each other's mind. All they had needed to do was exchange looks. When Mu Yao Yao fell forward, a little tiger jumped out of Feng Wu's sleeve and made its way into Mu Yao Yao's chest pocket. In a split second, crack, things began to fall out of Mu Yao Yao's chest pocket. Bottles and cans fell all over the floor. Are you all right? Feng Wu even took the time to stop Mu Yao Yao from falling, so that she wouldn't crush all the bottles. Hey, isn't this secret crow bone blood? Picking up a bottle, Feng Wu smiled at Mu Yao Yao. Mu Yao Yao blanched. The others all stared at Mu Yao Yao in disbelief. Had she really? No, I didn't. Mu Yao Yao tried to explain futilely. It's secret bone blood, not secret crow bone blood. It's secret bone blood. Feng Wu replied with an O, drawing the sound out for effect. She smiled at Mu Yao Yao. If that really is harmless secret bone blood, drink it yourself. With that, Feng Wu seized Mu Yao Yao by the neck. Wretch! Mu Yao Yao's mouth dropped open at the force. Feng Wu undid the bottle and was going to pour the content down Mu Yao Yao's throat. Mu Yao Yao blanched with fear and trembled from head to toe. Ah, don't kill me. Grandpa, help. Feng Wu wants to poison me. She wants to kill me with secret crow bone blood. Mu Yao Yao threw off Feng Wu's hand, then ran toward Grand Secretary Feng like a cannonball. In a moment of life and death, she spared no effort as she ran away frighteningly fast. However, everyone looked at Mu Yao Yao with complicated feelings. They weren't stupid and were able to put the pieces together. Feng Wu had guessed it right. Mu Yao Yao had tricked Yao Hao into taking secret bone blood when it had in fact been secret crow bone blood. That was horrible. How could any young woman be this vicious? Yao Hao had been nothing but loyal to her. He waited upon her carefully and considered himself her personal guard. Yaoing finally saw the light. She then glared fiercely at Mu Yao Yao. She charged at Mu Yao Yao. Did you kill my brother? Mu Yao Yao said, I didn't. Yaoing grabbed Mu Yao Yao by the hair. You gave him secret crow bone blood when you promised it was secret bone blood. You switched it out for poison. What did my brother ever do to you? Why did you have to do that? Speak. Yowing shook Mu Yao Yao violently. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Sob. Mu Yao Yao wept, her cheeks streaked with tears. I mix him up. I really did. Your brother is dead and nothing can bring him back. I'll make it up to you. Yao Ying said, You can't make it up to me. Give me back my brother. I want my brother. Feng Wu stepped aside, crossed her arms, and enjoyed the show with a smile. Mu Yao Yao tried to set her up. She just dug her own grave. If this thing with Yao Hao got out, it would be a blow to Mu Yao Yao's reputation. Chapter 1025, A Plot Twist 1. Chapter 1025, A Plot Twist 1. Hiding in her corner, Yi Yifei stared at Feng Wu in fear. She couldn't believe how clear Feng Wu was on the details. Not only was Feng Wu able to walk away from the trap unharmed, she had even turned the tables on Mu Yao Yao, making the latter miserable. This Feng Wu was so frightening. Why didn't they see it before? Why did they have to mess with her? Just then, stop! There came a cold, emotionless voice. The crowd turned around and saw that it was Yao Hao. The teenager was supposed to have no heartbeat and had stopped breathing for a while. However, he had just sat up. His face was pale and there was hatred in his eyes. He kept his intense gaze on Mu Yao Yao, and the look on his face was ruthless. Mu Yao Yao's stomach lurched when she saw the look in Yao Hao's eyes. Instantly, she was overwhelmed with panic and fear. Brother, you're alive. You're not dead. Yao Ying had already torn out a handful of Mu Yao Yao's hair. Shoving the latter to the side, Yao Ying rushed over and threw herself into Yao Hao's arms. Only then did Mu Yao Yao realize what had happened. Yes, Yao Hao was alive. Yao Hao wasn't dead. Ha ha ha. Mu Yao Yao went up to Yao Hao, crouched down, and sounded as if she actually cared about him. Yao Hao, are you all right? I promise what I gave you is secret bone blood. Feng Wu's lying. She deliberately. Yao Hao had always been so obedient to her. No matter what Mu Yao Yao said or did, Yao Hao would only look at her affectionately, dote on her, and indulge her. But now, smack! Yao Hao slapped Mu Yao Yao hard in the face. Everyone was shocked, but not as shocked as Mu Yao Yao was. She stared at Yao Hao in disbelief. You? Staring at Mu Yao Yao, Yao Hao gritted his teeth. I didn't know you wanted me dead so badly. Mu Yao Yao said, It's not like that. I gave you secret bone blood. Feng Wu smiled. Princess Mu may not know this, but although secret bone blood and secret crow bone blood are almost identical in color and smell, those who are poisoned will know the difference because secret bone blood will only seal one's cultivation power temporarily, but secret crow bone blood will destroy one's dantian, mess up their spiritual essence, and ruin their ability for good. Everyone stared at Yao Hao in astonishment. Had Yao Hao's cultivation ability been disabled temporarily, or had he been ruined altogether? But no one dared to examine him. Doing so would offend some very important people. After all, Princess Mu was Grand Secretary Feng's granddaughter, and if they found out that it really was secret crow bone blood, they would be incriminating Grand Secretary Feng. Anyone who still wanted to have a future would do no such thing. Mu Yao Yao realized that Grand Secretary Feng was her only hope. Grandpa, help me. Help. Only you can clear my name now. Dropping to her knees, Mu Yao Yao wrapped her arms around Grand Secretary Feng's legs and cried her eyes out. She looked pitiful. Everyone couldn't help but look at Grand Secretary Feng. With the significant improvement in his cultivation level, Grand Secretary Feng had gained an even more stable status. He could easily protect Mu Yao Yao. As expected, Grand Secretary Feng reached out and patted Mu Yao Yao on the hand with his scrawny fingers. Everyone stared at him in silence. So, Grand Secretary Feng had decided to take Mu Yao Yao's side. Well, she was his granddaughter, after all. Elder Xin Yuan glanced at Grand Secretary Feng and snickered inwardly. Just when he thought that the old man was so just and fair, it turned out that he was no different from other people. He had protected Feng Wu only because of Feng Xiaoqi, but Mu Yao Yao was his own granddaughter. Between the two girls, it was obvious whose side Grand Secretary Feng would take. Chapter 1026, A Plot Twist 2. Chapter 1026, A Plot Twist 2. At that thought, everyone looked at Feng Wu sympathetically. Although everyone had seen Mu Yaoyao's reaction and realized the damage that she had done, there was nothing they could do. With Mu Yaoyao's influential grandfather and connections, Feng Wu didn't stand a chance. Sigh, poor girl. Mu Yaoyao, on the other hand, was thrilled. She knew it. Her grandfather would still save her face in front of other people. However, before Mu Yaoyao got overly excited, Grand Secretary Feng sighed above her head. His voice was as soft as a feather and full of emotion. Mu Yaoyao, how many times have I told you? But you keep forgetting. Wait, what was going on? They had thought that Mu Yaoyao was sure to win this, but judging by Grand Secretary Feng's tone, that wasn't the case. Everyone pricked up their ears and listened. Looking up, Mu Yaoyao pleaded with her eyes. Her hands trembled. No, not here, not now. If her grandfather revealed the truth, her future in Imperial College would be ruined. At that thought, Mu Yaoyao held Grand Secretary Feng's thigh even tighter. However, Grand Secretary Feng only looked at her and sighed. I've told you already. It's granduncle. Why won't you listen? What? Her granduncle? Everyone stared at Mu Yaoyao in disbelief. Hadn't she been going on and on about Grand Secretary Feng being her grandfather? Her own grandfather. Nearly everyone at school wanted to fawn on Mu Yaoyao because of that. They would follow her around in flocks. However, she wasn't Grand Secretary Feng's granddaughter. Even Priest Wu was surprised. Old Feng, she's not your granddaughter. Grand Secretary Feng nodded. I adopted my brother's daughter. That explained it. Mu Yaoyao shook from head to toe. However, Grand Secretary Feng wasn't going to stop there. You try to frame Feng Wu. Yes or no? Grand Secretary Feng stared at Mu Yaoyao, and his cold gaze gave him a majestic look. Even Elder Xin Yuan was intimidated by that look, not to mention someone as young as Mu Yaoyao. Mu Yaoyao felt a numbing sensation on her scalp, and she thought she was going to explode. She could only grit her teeth and say, yes. Grand Secretary Feng said, you poison Yao Hao with secret crow bone blood. Yes or no? Mu Yaoyao said, yes. Grand Secretary Feng closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes, he looked calm again. You used to be such a lovely girl when you were little. Look what you've turned into. Grand Secretary Feng sighed with emotion. He then gave the verdict. From now on, you're no longer a student of Imperial College. Questions? What? There were surprised exclamations from the crowd. Grand Secretary Feng was going to kick Mu Yaoyao out of the school. Imperial College was more than a place to study and cultivate. It was a symbol of one's social status. Expelling Mu Yaoyao from Imperial College was as good as banishing her from the noble circle. It would have an unimaginable impact on Mu Yaoyao's life. No, Yu cried out. Grand Secretary Feng glanced at her. What does the school rules say? If it were another student who did this, Yu said they would be expelled. Grand Secretary Feng nodded. You know what to do. He turned to leave after that. After taking a few steps, the old man saw that the others were still standing around, dazed, and he glared at them. Shouldn't you be in your classes now? Chapter 1027, A Plot Twist 3. 1027, A Plot Twist 3. Yes, that was right. Those words seemed to wake the crowd from their reverie. And it only hit them after Grand Secretary Feng left with the boy. Mu Yaoyao had been expelled. But they heard the last thing Grand Secretary Feng said before he left. Not a word to anyone else. That was to say, Grand Secretary Feng didn't want anyone else to know what Mu Yaoyao had done. After Elder Xin Yuan and Priest Wu left, Yu scanned the crowd with her eyes. You heard him. Not a word leaves this room. Yu paid special attention to Feng Wu. After Mu Yaoyao's defeat, it was only natural that her friends would want to cover it up. Feng Wu, on the other hand, had turned things around at the last minute to achieve a great victory. Yu worried that Feng Wu would want to spread the news. Fearing that Feng Wu might be upset, Yu held Feng Wu's hands and enjoined her in a low voice. Little Feng Wu, Grand Secretary Fong is looking out for you because of your brother. That favor won't last forever. You have to keep a low profile. Yi was really worried about Feng Wu, because Feng Wu had been really aggressive toward Mu Yaoyao in front of Grand Secretary Fong. Not only did Feng Wu force Mu Yaoyao to reveal what she really was like, Feng Wu had also been relentless and had driven Mu Yaoyao into a hopeless situation. Feng Wu could see that Yu Yu only said it out of kindness, so she found it impolite to retort to her. She nodded with a smile. Yes, of course. Afterward, Feng Wu and Duan Chaoga held hands and went to Blue Cloud Court. The chief's office made sure that not a single word left the room. Those outside only knew that some people entered the office, but had no idea what happened after that. Our martial arts department's Mr. Xian Yuan just entered the office. Oh God, Grand Secretary Fong's here too. This is big. What's going to happen to Feng Wu? Expelled at the very least. As for Duan Chaoga, she's so dead. Just as everyone was making ominous predictions about Feng Wu and Chaoga, the two of them walked out of the chief's office hand in hand. They were even chatting cheerfully. Clearly, they were in a good mood. They walked into Blue Cloud Court, and everyone was shocked to see them. OMG, Feng Wu is back. So it was Duan Chaoga, alive. Many students froze in their seats and stared at Feng Wu in disbelief, as if they had been struck by lightning. They couldn't believe it. Shouldn't Feng Wu and Duan Chaoga be locked up? They should at least be expelled. However, they didn't look like they would be kicked out anytime soon. Just then, there were footsteps outside. The crowd turned around to see Qiao Yi, the teacher responsible for their class. Qiao Yi met Feng Wu's eyes and became noticeably uneasy. Feng Wu didn't look affected. She kept her composure, glanced at Qiao Yi, then led Chaoga into the classroom. Mu Yaoyao and Yao Hao had the best seats in the classroom. In the end, Feng Wu took Mu Yaoyao's seat. Duan Chaoga took Yao Hao's, which made her Feng Wu's desk mate. Hey, a cold voice ran out a few steps away. Hey, you're in Miss Mu's seat. It was one of the female students. She hadn't stood out during the exam, but had fawned on Mu Yaoyao the first chance she got, and had quickly become one of Mu Yaoyao's minions. Naturally, she stepped out when Feng Wu took Mu Yaoyao's seat. However, Feng Wu... Chapter 1028. Explain the profound in simple terms 1. Chapter 1028. Explain the profound in simple terms 1. However, Feng Wu didn't even sneer at her. She sat there unperturbed. Many students gloated as they looked forward to the predicament which Feng Wu was going to find herself in. That was bold. Mu Yaoyao was a princess as well as Grand Secretary Feng's granddaughter. Princess Mu had to be the most prominent new student in year 1. No one would dare offend her. And someone had just taken Mu Yaoyao's seat. The girl who scolded Feng Wu was called Wei Jing. Right now, she was glaring and sneering at Feng Wu. This girl was so dead. Getting to her feet, Wei Jing said to Qiao Yi in protest, Miss, Feng Wu took Miss Mu's seat. I tried to tell her that, but she won't listen. Qiao Yi's face darkened. How stupid was this Wei Jing? Couldn't she see that there was a teacher in the room? She should realize that the teacher was keeping silent for a reason. However, even more students gloated when they saw Qiao Yi's dark face. Miss Qiao Yi was clearly mad. Feng Wu was going to be in a lot of trouble. Miss Mu is... Recalling Grand Secretary Feng's warning, Qiao Yi paused mid-sentence and chose different words. Miss Mu has withdrawn from the college, so this seat is vacant now. Miss Feng can take it if she wants to. What? That announcement shocked everyone. No one saw that coming. Miss Mu dropped out. After everything we went through to get into Imperial College, she dropped out? Just like that? Why? Hey, I think I heard from somewhere that Miss Mu is a sacred lady of Firmament Palace. Has she gone back to Firmament Palace? Everyone began to talk at the same time. Qiao Yi shook her head when she saw how agitated and curious the students were. Cultivators were supposed to remain serene. These students didn't have the right mindset toward their studies. Quiet, please. Today, Qiao Yi opened a textbook and started teaching the newbies cultivation theory. Feng Wu's knowledge of cultivation theory was vast, for her beautiful master had taught her everything when she was little. With his great capability, her beautiful master was able to make the most basic theory sound incredible. Xiao Yi's teaching was nothing in comparison. That was why Feng Wu began to yawn midway through the class. She wondered how Xiao Yi had become a teacher at Imperial College. It had only been 10 minutes since the start of class, and Feng Wu had already picked up 7 errors. Feng Wu shook her head. She then quickly flipped through the Year 1 textbook, then took out some Year 2 textbooks from the storage bag, which Jun Linyuan had given to her, and started reading. Xiao Wu, Xiao Wu. Xiaoga nudged Feng Wu with her elbow. Feng Wu looked at her in bewilderment. Xiaoga gestured at the dais. Feng Wu looked up and saw Xiao Yi's angry face. Feng Wu, stand up. Xiao Yi had never liked Feng Wu, and the girl's indifferent attitude only frustrated her further. She tried to give Feng Wu a hard time. Feng Wu rose to her feet and gave Xiao Yi a bewildered look. The conditions for fusing the fire element. Explain it. Xiao Yi purposefully asked Feng Wu a difficult question. Fusing the fire element was something that would only be taught in Year 2 and was only briefly mentioned in the Year 1 textbook. However, Xiao Yi wanted Feng Wu to answer the question in their first class. Chapter 1029. Explain the profound in simple terms too. 1029. Explain the profound in simple terms too. Many gloated, waiting to see Feng Wu get humiliated. It was a question too profound for them to answer at the moment. However, Feng Wu only darted an indifferent glance at Xiao Yi before she replied. Fusing the fire element involves absorbing fire essence with the help of spiritual essence. It consists of the initial and complete fusion of the fire element. Feng Wu answered in an unhurried tone. She talked for a while, and her answer was perfect. She talked continuously for 15 minutes as she explained what the fire element was and how to achieve the initial, complete, and final fusion. She explained everything. Some of it wasn't even in the textbook, but she was still able to answer everything clearly. Moreover, her answer was straightforward, and she was able to explain the profound in simple terms. Xiao Yi's teaching was obscure in comparison, since she only lapped up information without digesting it. Feng Wu's explanation was on a whole other level. Xiao Yi didn't expect Feng Wu to know the answer. She was baffled, and her face darkened. Looking around the classroom, she saw enlightened faces and astonished looks in the students' eyes. That Feng Wu. Xiao Yi was convinced that she would be utterly humiliated if she let Feng Wu off now. In fact, if Xiao Yi had reined in her temper and praised Feng Wu for her answer, she could have avoided everything that happened next. But Xiao Yi was anything but forgiving. At that thought, Xiao Yi continued to throw difficult questions at Feng Wu, one after another. To Xiao Yi's frustration, Feng Wu was able to answer every single one, and the answers were much better than she expected. The other students listened in amazement. Soon, someone mumbled, "No wonder she got full marks in the written exam. Feng Wu really is as amazing as they say." Miss Xiao Yi wanted to give her a hard time, but I think Miss Xiao Yi is only embarrassing herself. Look at Miss Xiao Yi's face. She looks so frustrated. I bet she's already cursing in her head. She didn't have to do this. Feng Wu is only a student. Miss Xiao Yi looks so petty, getting angry over something like this. Xiao Yi heard every word of their discussion. Gritting her teeth, Xiao Yi clenched her fists. Damn it, she went on asking Feng Wu questions. At first, it was only from Year 1 textbooks, but she gradually moved on to Year 2 books. Unfortunately for her, Feng Wu was able to answer all of them too. She then questioned Feng Wu on theory from Year 3 and Year 4 books. However, Feng Wu went on giving perfect answers, and was even able to draw inferences. She remained calm, showed no impatience, and caught every ball that was thrown her way. Xiao Yi, on the other hand, grew more frustrated and exasperated as time went by. Many students had been opposed to Feng Wu, but now They were all shocked by Feng Wu's profound knowledge. What kind of brain did she have? The things she knew, she was frighteningly smart. In the end, Qiao, he went beyond the textbooks and asked, "What can you tell us about fusing two elements together, such as ice and fire? Do you know the fusion process?" If Qiao, he had listed other elements, Feng Wu might not have been able to give an answer. However, she had fused ice and fire together herself just the other day, and she knew exactly what the answer was. Chapter 1030. Explain the profound in simple terms 3. 1030. Explain the profound in simple terms 3. But explaining it wasn't as easy. Feng Wu lowered her head and pondered the question. Seeing Feng Wu remain silent, Qiao, he let out a sigh of relief. Feng Wu was so erudite that it drove Qiao, crazy. Thinking that she had gotten Feng Wu, Qiao, he was elated and didn't try to hide it. I see you don't have an answer to that. Feng Wu, I know you're smart and you've read more than the rest of the class, but that's it. As a new student here, you still have a lot to learn, and from now on. However, Feng Wu raised her head before Qiao, he could finish. Her eyes were bright when she said, "Fusing ice and fire together requires the ice and fire elements. Fusing elements together is a complicated process, but there are patterns we can follow." And she went on. Feng Wu had a nice voice, and her tone was easy and relaxed. After hearing her answer, the students all felt enlightened, as if they were going to have an epiphany. It was something that couldn't be explained with words. If they perceived it, they perceived it, and if they didn't, they didn't. After hearing what Feng Wu said, Qiao obtained some understanding as well, but she was even more displeased when she saw that Feng Wu outclassed her. Looking around the classroom, she saw radiant faces and sparkling eyes. They had clearly all sensed something from Feng Wu's answer. Qiao believed that as a teacher, she worked her guts out to deliver her lectures, but each of her students was more sleepy and unresponsive than the next. However, as soon as Feng Wu opened her mouth, these students hung on to her every word with excited looks in their eyes. Qiao, he couldn't stand it. "Shut up." Qiao, he glared at Feng Wu. "That's nonsense. These newbies are like blank sheets of paper, if they're misled by your false theory." Misled? Feng Wu smirked. Everything she said, she learned from her beautiful master. She wouldn't have shared it with anyone else to begin with, but since Qiao he had asked, she had replied. These students should be honored to learn from a most capable man on the continent. It wouldn't happen again. Just then, someone in the classroom shrieked, "Art!" Everyone turned their heads involuntarily. It was Wei Jing, the girl who tried to stop Feng Wu from taking Mu Yaoyao's seat. Right now, she looked stunned, and there was a look of disbelief in her eyes. What happened? Rushing down from the dais, Qiao, he stared at Wei Jing. "Miss, I heard what Feng Wu said in..." Before Wei Jing could finish, Qiao Yi's eyes lit up, and she tried to drop the student a hint. After hearing her answer, "Do you feel your energy clogging up and your spiritual energy running wild?" No, no, no. Wei Jing shook her head repeatedly. In the end, she gripped Qiao Yi's hands tightly. "Sorry, miss, but I have a feeling. I think I can make a breakthrough now." After that, Wei Jing pushed her chair away and sat down on the cold floor as she entered a state of meditation right away. A breakthrough. The other students looked at one another and found it unbelievable. How did Wei Jing get her epiphany? Actually, I felt something after hearing Feng Wu's answer, too. It felt like I was cultivating with my head in a fog before this. But now, that fog has lifted. I felt the same, too, but the feeling disappeared before I could grab hold of it. Chapter 1031. Feng Wu the Tutor. 1. 1031 Feng Wu the Tutor. 1. Everyone began to talk among themselves. Qiao, he turned around and stared at Feng Wu with a livid face and bloodshot eyes. She said, "You started Wei Jing's breakthrough. If something happens to her, it'll be all on you. You can't run away from this." Feng Wu shrugged. "What can possibly happen? She's having a breakthrough. Miss Qiao, you worry too much." Qiao Yi said in a harsh tone. Do you think a breakthrough can happen so easily? What if her cultivation goes awry? Feng Wu chuckled. Just then, Miss Qiao Yi, I'm sorry, but I have a feeling too. Miss Qiao Yi, so do I. Sorry, Miss Qiao Yi, but... In a matter of minutes, 3 more students sat down. If Wei Jing was the only one, it could still be called a coincidence. However, 3 more sat down after that, and every single one of them had talked about a breakthrough. It had to have something to do with Feng Wu. Instantly, everyone looked at one another in amazement, and Xiao Yi's face darkened even further. Jealousy gnawed at her heart. As for Feng Wu, she only looked surprised at the very beginning. She then sat down in her seat and looked perfectly calm. She was even in the mood to do some light reading. She took a book out of the storage bag which Jun Lin Yuan had given to her. The storage bag contained books which covered all the theory taught from year 1 to year 4, and Feng Wu could read them without any difficulty. 15 minutes passed. 30 minutes passed. No one spoke, and it was quiet enough in the classroom to hear everyone breathing. They wondered if those 4 would break through, like Feng Wu said, or if their cultivation would go awry. 45 minutes passed. There was now a light buzzing sound around Wei Jing, who had been the first to sit down. Abundant spiritual energy started to pour into her body. She absorbed every single streak of it until there was nothing left to absorb. Soon, Wei Jing opened her eyes, which were now so limpid and bright that they looked like they had been washed thoroughly. Rising to her feet, Wei Jing went up to Feng Wu, raised her hands, and dropped to her knees. She then prostrated herself in front of Feng Wu. She kowtowed 1, 2, 3 times. Everyone watched with their mouths agape. Did Wei Jing have a breakthrough? So, her cultivation didn't go awry. Wow, Feng Wu's words can do that. Everyone looked from Feng Wu to Qiao Yi. Feng Wu didn't look disturbed at all. Qiao Yi, on the other hand, looked humiliated. Feng Wu, I want to thank you for your teaching. I offended you. I should have known better. Please punish me however you see fit. After that, smack. Wei Jing slapped herself. Smack, smack. She slapped herself twice more after that. Feng Wu frowned. Quiet. The others are still cultivating. Of course. Rising to her feet, Wei Jing went up to Feng Wu obediently. Her meaning was clear. She would listen to Feng Wu's orders from now on. The change in her attitude was so incredible. Clearly, Wei Jing was very flexible in her loyalties. On second thought, the others realized that if they listened to Feng Wu, they could learn more from her and would have more opportunities to make a breakthrough. Who wouldn't want to stick to her? But could Wei Jing's breakthrough have been a coincidence? Soon, the other 3 students all opened their eyes. Needless to say, they had made breakthroughs too. Chapter 1032, Feng Wu the Tutor. 2. Chapter 1032, Feng Wu the Tutor. 2. The student's spiritual essence had grown much denser. OMG. So, listening to Feng Wu can really help you improve your cultivation? My God, is Feng Wu a god or something? If people still doubted Feng Wu's ability before, with 4 successful breakthroughs, they no longer had any doubts. Instantly, everyone wanted to talk to Feng Wu and learn from her. Qiao Yi had never looked so awful. Her face went from blue to pale, and she looked miserable. It was too good a chance to pass up, and of course, Qiao Go wouldn't let her off easily. I thought Miss Qiao Yi predicted that their cultivation would go awry. With those words, all eyes were on Qiao Yi. The look on Qiao Yi's face turned grimmer. Throwing a dirty look at Feng Wu, she turned to leave. Qiao Ge called after her. Is Qiao Yi jealous? After all, she taught us over and over again, but just couldn't make us understand. Xiao Wu only answered one question, and 4 people made breakthroughs. Qiao Yi stumbled and almost fell. That was so humiliating. Qiao Yi rushed into the chief's office. Meanwhile, a lot of students gathered around Feng Wu. Feng Wu, I have a question. Feng Wu, about the earth element. Feng Wu, I want to ask you about the ice element. After realizing Feng Wu's capability, No one dared to show her any hostility anymore. Feng Wu was now the treasure of the class. Just then, there were footsteps outside. It was the senior year 1 students. Feng Sang led the group, followed by Wu Jing and Tao Yu. Seeing the newbies gathered around Feng Wu, Feng Sang looked furious. What she had heard was that Feng Wu had offended Mu Yao Yao and all the other newbies, which was why she was here to plunder a burning house. However, she had arrived to find the newbies gathered around Feng Wu. What was going on? Wu Jing asked one of the newbies what happened. The newbies didn't like that at all. Feng Wu had just become their treasure, one that was more effective than a cultivation pill. If this got out, the senior year 1 students wouldn't be the only ones to try and snatch Feng Wu away. Students from the other 3 years might join the competition too. Would the newbies stand a chance when that happened? Obviously not. That was why all the newbies worked together for the first time and kept their mouths shut. No matter what the senior students asked, they just kept shaking their heads. Seeing that they weren't getting anywhere, Feng Sang glared at Feng Wu. "You've gotten our family in trouble again, haven't you?" Feng Wu looked bewildered. "No, I haven't." Feng Sang smirked. "You've offended Princess Mu, haven't you?" Feng Wu shrugged. It was the other way round. Feng Sang was furious. "Feng Wu, are you trying to destroy our clan? Have you forgotten who Princess Mu and her grandfather are? Hand me that goddamn bet already." Feng Wu smiled. "What if I say no?" Feng Sang had expected that Feng Wu wouldn't listen to her, and she had known before she came that Feng Wu wouldn't give her what she asked for. There was only one reason for her to show up here. She didn't want to be incriminated. Feng Sang stared at Feng Wu. "Are you sure?" Feng Wu nodded. Feng Sang said, "If you want to bring trouble down on yourself, be my guest, but my branch of the family will have nothing to do with it. That's my final decision." Chapter 1033 Feng Wu the Tutor 3. Chapter 1033 Feng Wu the Tutor 3. From now on, Feng Wu is no longer my sister, and whatever she does has nothing to do with me, said Feng Sang. Almost all the senior students from Universe Court applauded her. However, the newbies all gave Feng Sang strange looks. "Who is this Feng Sang anyway?" some bewildered student asked in a low voice. Feng Sang is the daughter of the first branch of the Feng clan and the third child of her mother. She's Feng Wu's older cousin. If they're cousins, they should be pretty close, right? Won't that give her an advantage in getting help from Feng Wu first? But she just said that she has nothing to do with Feng Wu. Had Feng Sang lost her mind? Feng Wu was practically a walking cultivation pill. One word from her worked better than 10 years in school. No newbie would dare offend Feng Wu now. They couldn't stop fawning on her and worshipped the ground she walked. Feng Sang was doing the exact opposite. That was bold. Everyone looked at Feng Sang in amazement. Those looks bewildered Feng Sang, but no one would tell her why. In the end, she could only throw a dirty look at Feng Wu and storm off. The other senior year 1 students followed Feng Sang out. That was weird. Tao Yu scratched her head. Don't those newbies despise Feng Wu? They used to gloat at her predicament. Why are they supporting her all of a sudden? Guan Jing frowned as well. Aren't they afraid of offending Princess Mu? She's connected to Grand Secretary Feng. Breaking news. Someone rushed into Universe Court and announced loudly. The latest news is that Mu Yao Yao has withdrawn from Imperial College. She's already left the city and is on her way to Firmament Palace. What? Everyone was astonished. No way. They thought they knew who Mu Yao Yao was. She was the princess of the Mu family and the granddaughter of Grand Secretary Feng. Not only did the royal family like her, she had also been made a sacred lady of Firmament Palace. She was supposed to be the luckiest girl. Then, she and Feng Wu became enemies, and she dropped out. Whoosh! All eyes were on Feng Sang right away. How well-connected is your cousin Feng Wu? How did she force Princess Mu to drop out? What's Feng Wu's background? She must have some remarkable patrons. Feng Sang, isn't she your cousin? Don't you know? Feng Sang thought her head was going to explode. How was she supposed to know? Why was that bitch everywhere? Why wouldn't she just go away? At that thought, Feng Sang's face turned livid. However, at that moment, OMG, I've got big news. Another student ran into Universe Court, shaking from head to toe in excitement. Feng Sang's first reaction was to wonder what Feng Wu had done this time. However, before she could ask, the student announced, "His Royal Highness is here. His Royal Highness is in the year 1/4. What? That shocked everyone. The Crown Prince was here. He was the legend of Imperial College. With his capability, he could have graduated years ago. However, he had repeatedly applied to postpone his graduation and remained a year 4 student here. Even then, it had been a while since he last visited Imperial College. What was the occasion? What brought the Crown Prince here today? Let's go." Students of Universe Court, the girls in particular, rushed out in great excitement. "Where is His Royal Highness? Where did he go?" "He's in Blue Cloud Court." Chapter 1034, Attacked by His Royal Highness 1. 1034 Attacked by His Royal Highness 1. Instantly, all the thousands of students of Universe Court rushed toward Blue Cloud Court. Meanwhile, in Blue Cloud Court, nearly all the students had gathered around Feng Wu, wanting to gain her trust right away and become inseparable friends with her. One little lecture from her had been able to make 4 students break through. "Hey, you people." Chaoga had been sitting next to Feng Wu earlier, but their classmates were so enthusiastic that they soon pushed Chaoga out of the way. Chaoga stomped her foot in frustration. "These people." One of the students tugged at Chaoga. "You've been following Feng Wu around and learning so much from her. Can't you give us some time with her?" "That's right. Aren't you staying with Feng Wu, Chaoga? There's nothing we can do after you go back home. But can't we ask for her help while we're here at school? You're not the only one that has a right to go near Feng Wu, you know. We have a right, too." They all refused to accept it. What did Chaoga have that they didn't? Chaoga stared at them in disbelief. Before, they couldn't get far away enough from Xiao Wu, but now, the same bunch wouldn't leave Xiao Wu's side. These people were impossible to reason with. Just then, footsteps came from outside. At that moment, a student cried out, "His Royal Highness is here." "What?" Everyone in the classroom was stunned by the news. His Royal Highness, as in Jun Lin Yuan, the Crown Prince? He was here in Imperial College. That was a miracle. The Crown Prince seldom showed up here. This was rare. Everywhere Jun Lin Yuan went, the bustling crowd parted to make a passageway wide enough for 4 people to walk through shoulder to shoulder. Before long, a dashing, handsome teenager walked into the classroom. The teenager wore a nice-fitting brocade robe, and his exquisite features reminded one of a deity. He had a dangerous look in his sharp eyes and gave off a threatening air that gave people the creeps. As soon as he walked into the classroom, he kept his unblinking gaze on Feng Wu, as if she was the only person he could see in the whole world. All the other people in the classroom were ants to him. He didn't even want to set eyes on them. She was the only one he could see. He was like a hunter with his eyes on his prey. The look in his eyes was fierce, and he was certain he would get what he wanted. That murderous look in Jun Lin Yuan's eyes gave Feng Wu the creeps. She wasn't afraid of anything, and neither the teachers nor her classmates frightened her. However, that predatory look in Jun Lin Yuan's eyes gave her so much pressure that she instinctively wanted to run away. But how? If she couldn't run away from it, she had to face it head on. Feng Wu looked up at Jun Lin Yuan with her limpid, bright eyes. She was intimidated, but she wouldn't give in. The students looked from Jun Lin Yuan to Feng Wu, and many were reminded of what happened in Proud Snowfield. The things Feng Wu did to His Royal Highness. So, was His Royal Highness going to get his revenge? Before, they would be glad to see Jun Lin Yuan taking it out on Feng Wu, but now, Feng Wu was the treasure of this class. What were they supposed to do now? Fearing that Feng Wu might be hurt, some students snuck out the back door to find a teacher. Xiao, he wouldn't do. Chief, he was their only hope now. Jun Lin Yuan kept his eyes on Feng Wu the entire time, a ferocious, murderous look in them. The chilly and intimidating air he gave off made everyone shudder. Chapter 1035, Attacked by His Royal Highness II. Chapter 1035, Attacked by His Royal Highness II. One had to acknowledge that many girls were infatuated with Jun Linyuan, especially the seniors who were rushing over from Universe Court. After all this time in Imperial College, they had never met His Royal Highness on campus. That was how rarely Jun Linyuan showed up here. A group of girls from Universe Court were talking among themselves. Look at the way His Royal Highness is staring at Feng Wu. It looks like he wants to tear her to pieces. That Feng Wu is unbelievable. She shows no sign of remorse after doing those things to His Royal Highness. Do you think His Royal Highness will just smack Feng Wu to death? I don't think so. After all, we're still in Imperial College. So what? Yes, school rules forbid students from fighting each other, but he's the Crown Prince. He makes the rules, not following them. Look, His Royal Highness is walking toward Feng Wu. I never saw that coming. After surviving Mu Yaoyao, Feng Wu is going to be killed by His Royal Highness. Seeing Jun Linyuan approach with his strong hands clenched into fists, Chaoga panicked. She rushed out and spread out her arms, shielding Feng Wu behind her. Because Feng Wu had saved her in proud Snowfield, Gong Sun Qing had been having conflicted feelings toward Feng Wu, but she still couldn't help but dart a pitying look at Feng Wu. Shi Xian was much more straightforward. Taking Feng Wu's hand, she said in a low voice, "Xiao Wu, just apologize. Say sorry to His Royal Highness." The other newbies were all giving Feng Wu encouraging looks as well. They admired Feng Wu too much to see her taken out by His Royal Highness now. Say sorry? Feng Wu found that strange. She said, "What did I do? Why should I apologize?" Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. His Royal Highness was right here. With that attitude, Feng Wu was asking for death. By then, even the conflicted Gong Sun Qing couldn't stand it anymore. She glared at Feng Wu. "Have you forgotten what you did? Get down on your knees and apologize to His Royal Highness." Gong Sun Qing would never have warned Feng Wu if the latter hadn't saved her life. However, Feng Wu only raised her chin and said proudly, "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize?" She had saved Jun Linyuan more than once in proud Snowfield. Jun Linyuan was only an arm's length away from Feng Wu now, and he raised a hand. No, many thought that he was going to strike down at Feng Wu's head, killing her right there and then. Feng Sang's eyes widened, and she could barely hide the elation in them. "Kill Feng Wu. Kill her now. Stop." Just then, Yu arrived in a hurry. She saw Jun Linyuan raise his hand from afar. Thinking that the Crown Prince was going to execute a lethal blow, Yu was scared out of her wits. Feng Wu was a student that Grand Secretary Fong paid special attention to. Although Yu believed that Grand Secretary Fong only cared about Feng Wu because of Feng Xiaoqi's ultimate spiritual body, that still made her special in a way. As Yu cried out, Jun Linyuan slowly put down his raised hand and removed a pink petal from Feng Wu's head. Blood finally returned to the newbies' white faces. Miss Yu had arrived just in time. A second later, and Feng Wu would have been crushed by that blow. Is it possible that His Royal Highness meant to pick that petal from the beginning? Someone suggested in a low voice. Chapter 1036, Deskmate 1. 1036, Deskmate 1. Nonsense. Have you forgotten who he is? He's Jun Linyuan, our resolute, merciless, ferocious, and arrogant crown prince. He would never pick petals out of someone's hair, especially not Feng Wu's. What's the matter with you? The only student that had come up with the question was soon dismissed by everyone else. Your Royal Highness. Yu might be the chief teacher of Year 1, but she was still intimidated by the tyrannical crown prince. That was why she greeted him with a smile. Playing with the pink petal between his fingers, Jun Linyuan glanced at Yu grimly before turning his gaze back to Feng Wu. He wouldn't look away. This girl had been running away from him since they last saw each other in his residence. All his efforts to try to hold her down had been futile. She wasn't going anywhere now. Yu smiled bitterly and pitted Feng Wu for her bad luck. After Mu Yao Yao, Feng Wu had to deal with the crown prince here, who happened to be the one person in the empire that she should never mess with. Yu Yu went up to them and seemed to accidentally stand in front of Feng Wu. She then smiled at Jun Lin Yuan. Your Royal Highness, to what does the year 1/4 owe this honor? Jun Lin Yuan cast a stern look at Yu Yu, the look in his eyes grim. Yu Yu explained immediately. The rules of Imperial College stipulate that fights are not allowed on school grounds. Feng Sun and Xianyi stood on either side of Jun Lin Yuan, and Feng Sun was the first to snap. Miss, are you suggesting that Boss Jun would do that? Fist fights? Boss Jun never fights other people since he can just kick their asses. That was a bold, confident statement. Many smiled bitterly at those words. Feng Sun was right. With his Royal Highness's capability, he could easily crush anyone. Only a handful of the teachers here was his match, let alone the students. Yu Yu sighed inwardly, but she said, yes, that's right. But the year 4/4 is in Swan Court, and the three of you. Feng Sun grinned at Feng Wu, then said to Yu Yu, we're not here to take classes. We're making our rounds. Making your rounds? Yu Yu's stomach lurched, and she had a very bad feeling about what was coming. She was right. Feng Sun grinned. That's right. We're here to make our rounds on behalf of His Royal Highness. We're not here as students of Imperial College to take classes. So, the school rules don't apply to us. That was an outright abuse of power. Yu Yu liked Feng Wu, but that was when her own life wasn't in danger. Now that Jun Lin Yuan was here as the crown prince, she wasn't in any position to go against his will. Since young Lord Feng had referred to her as Miss, it was so obvious that he didn't think much of her title as the chief teacher of Year 1 at all. If that's the case, before Yu could go on, she saw that Jun Lin Yuan was staring at Feng Wu's deskmate. Duan Chaoga had been sitting there at first, but Feng Wu became so popular that Chaoga's seat was taken by a boy, and his name was Lian Xiao. Jun Lin Yuan's glare made Lian Xiao shake all over. His legs gave out, and he fell back in a chair. But he realized right away that he had done the wrong thing, and while he wanted to stand up, his legs were too weak. That was crazy. The crown prince's seemingly calm eyes had a look in them that resembled 1,000 storms, which could suck out one's soul. Feng Sun couldn't stand it anymore. He rushed over, picked up the student, and tossed him to the side. He then quickly set the chair upright and even wiped the seat clean with his sleeve. Chapter 1037, Deskmate 2. Chapter 1037, Deskmate 2. His Royal Highness was a neat freak. A dirty chair would upset him, and when he was upset, he would kill someone. As expected, after Feng Sun wiped the chair clean, Jun Lin Yuan stepped forward and sat down proudly in it. All mouths fell open. What was going on with His Royal Highness? Outside the door, the girls from Universe Court were all baffled. He didn't throttle Feng Wu, but sat down next to her. What was he thinking? I know. What? Do you know what Ling Qi is? Of course. It's a death penalty where you cut people into the tiniest pieces and let them die in agony. That's it. His Royal Highness has to hate Feng Wu to the bone now, and killing her instantly just won't be enough to vent his rage. His Royal Highness is doing this to make Feng Wu's life a living hell. Oh God, Feng Wu will live in fear every waking moment. I told you, His Royal Highness is so clever. His Royal Highness is as amazing as always. They weren't alone. Everyone here, except for Feng Sun and Xian Yi, thought that way. They all thought that Jun Lin Yuan felt that killing Feng Wu wouldn't be good enough revenge, and that he had decided to kill her slowly. Ding! The bell rang, and it was time for class. However, everyone acted as if they hadn't heard a thing as they kept staring at Jun Lin Yuan. The crown prince grew impatient. He frowned. As a spokesman, Feng Sun bellowed, "Is the class ever going to start?" Yu Yu gave Feng Wu a sympathetic glance, but there was nothing she could do, despite her wish to help. The only thing she could think of was to go to Grand Secretary Feng and ask for instructions. Yu Yu left after that. Feng Sun and Xian then went to the desks behind Jun Lin Yuan and Feng Wu and Feng Sun rapped on one of them. Behind Feng Wu sat Hua Yin and another girl, who had been secretly pleased to sit so close to the crown prince. But now, under young Lord Feng's intimidating gaze, they cringed and gave in. They quickly packed their stuff and went to find seats further down the row. In a matter of minutes, Feng Wu was surrounded by Jun Linyuan and his friends. This period was taught by Mr. Hu, and the subject was application of martial arts. He walked into the classroom to see the strange looks on the students' faces, which made him jump. What was going on? He scanned the classroom with his eyes and saw Feng Wu at once. He frowned. Because of her brother's special endowment, the girl had gained Grand Secretary Feng's favor and forced Mu Yaoyao out. No one would dare become her friend. Mr. Hu wondered who was the person unlucky enough to sit next to her. When he saw the person on Feng Wu's left, holy crap, even the experienced, level-headed Mr. Hu thought that his heart would jump out of his throat when he saw the person sitting next to Feng Wu. He couldn't believe his eyes. When he rubbed them and opened them again, he still saw the face that would make all girls in the Empire go wild. Why did he know that? Because his beloved daughter was also one of the Crown Prince's fervent fans. How could he not get nervous? The Crown Prince was here in the classroom. Why, Your Royal Highness. Mr. Hu, who had been hypercritical of Feng Wu, scurried over to Jun Linyuan, bowed, and gave an ingratiating smile. Your Royal Highness, I didn't know you would be here. To what do we owe this honor? The Crown Prince lost his patience. Chapter 1038, Arrogant Deskmate 1. Chapter 1038, Arrogant Deskmate 1. Jean Linyuan had darted several glances at Feng Wu, but like a dummy, she kept her gaze fixed straight ahead, which annoyed him. And then, the teacher was at his desk. The Crown Prince threw a dirty look at Mr. Hu. Do you know how to teach? Mr. Hu said, yes. Yes, of course. Jun Linyuan said, then do it. The Crown Prince didn't like to be disturbed when he was watching Lil Feng Wu. Mr. Hu said, yes, no problem, but he didn't know where to start. He could teach even when the principal was in the classroom, but the Crown Prince was a different story. Mr. Hu cried for help in his head. However, he had no choice but to stand on the dais and start teaching. Mr. Hu was usually a fluent speaker, but he kept stammering today. However, no one was actually listening to him, for everyone's attention was on the Crown Prince. This was the first time that they were so close to His Royal Highness, and it might be the only time in their whole lives. Why waste it on some lecture? Feng Wu could sense many pairs of eyes on her, especially from her left. The gaze was so intense that it burned her skin. She decided that she had had enough, and turned to glare at Jun Linyuan. Jun Linyuan was looking straight ahead, but stole sideways glances at Feng Wu the whole time. Caught by Feng Wu, he was embarrassed and looked away immediately. What did this Jun Linyuan want? Feng Wu was confused. The feeling put her on edge. Just then, a boy on her right handed her a folded note. Feng Wu opened it. Don't be afraid. We're here for you. The plain words gave Feng Wu strength, and she looked to the right voluntarily. It was a familiar face that she couldn't recognize. She couldn't recognize it because she had never spoken to him. But he seemed familiar because he was one of the 4 students who had gotten a breakthrough just then. Feng Wu wrote, "Thank you," on the paper. She smiled at the boy and handed the note back to him. In the face of her alluring glance and her mesmerizing smile, the boy had no chance. He was infatuated right away. When he was finally able to look down at the note, he was stunned by her beautiful handwriting. Feng Wu had learned her cursive handwriting from her beautiful master. It possessed natural grace and gave off a free and easy feel. The strokes were a combination of stillness and motion. Her handwriting was as exceptional as that of some of the greatest calligraphers in the Empire. With one look, the boy was even more astonished. Feng Wu's handwriting was as beautiful as the person herself. She was like a goddess. Their seats were quite close. The boy leaned over and whispered to Feng Wu, "Your cursive handwriting has so much energy in it. May I ask who your master is?" However, that was as far as he got. The next second, he was lifted off his feet by the back of his collar. Feng Sun was so mad. He wouldn't have reacted that way if he hadn't learned that Boss Jun was in love with Feng Wu. Now that he had, he wouldn't allow any other stupid guy to go near her. The poor boy had only been infatuated with Feng Wu for a minute before Feng Sun threw him away. Smack! The boy smashed into the blackboard, and the impact made a loud bang. Everyone in the classroom was scared out of their wits, and so was the stammering Mr. Hu. Feng Wu, on the other hand, was furious. Smacking her desk, she bolted to her feet, then turned around and glared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun, what did you do that for? Wow. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. Because class had started, the senior year 1 students of Universe Court were no longer outside the classroom. However, there were still hundreds of newbies here, and they... Chapter 1039, Arrogant Deskmate 2. 1039, Arrogant Deskmate 2. The hundreds of students all stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. How could Feng Wu yell at Feng Sun like that? He was young Lord Feng and the Crown Prince's buddy. Instantly, everyone quieted down and began to exchange looks of bewilderment. Feng Wu glared at Feng Sun. I never knew this side of you, Feng Sun. You can't bully the weak just because you have powerful backing. I'm so disappointed. The others were so sure that young Lord Feng would hit her back, for that was what Feng Sun would typically do. However, to everyone's surprise, Feng Sun only lowered his head and looked too intimidated to speak his mind. He gave Feng Wu an aggrieved look. Why did he look like an abandoned wife? How could that be? That didn't seem right at all. Throwing a dirty look at Feng Sun, Feng Wu left her seat to help that boy to his feet. Feng Sun couldn't let her touch the boy's hands. If he let that happen, he was sure that Boss Jun would kill him later. Leave it to me. Let me. Feng Sun rushed over and helped the guy to his feet. He was very rough with his actions, which almost made the student vomit blood. Feng Wu frowned and checked the boy's pulse. Feng Sun wanted to stop her, but Feng Wu cast a stern look at him. Do you want to check his pulse then? Feng Sun backed away in embarrassment. He didn't know how to do that. Feng Wu could feel an intense gaze on her back, which seemed to set her on fire. However, she refrained from looking back and acted as if no one was there. After checking his pulse, Feng Wu heaved a sigh of relief. Your internal organs are unharmed. It's only some surface bleeding. A blood-clotting pill will heal you in no time. Supported by young Lord Feng, the teenager was already very anxious. When he looked up and saw the murderous look in the Crown Prince's eyes, he almost burst into tears. I'm fine. I'm really fine. Instinct told him that Feng Wu was the reason that he had gotten himself thrown out. Both Feng Sun and His Royal Highness were warning him with their eyes that Feng Wu was strictly off limits. That was why the teenager snatched the pill Feng Wu gave him, stuffed it into his mouth, then turned to run away. Feng Wu frowned. But your chest needs to be massaged to activate blood circulation. But the teenager was long gone. He had run out of sight. The Crown Prince was giving off a terrifying and suffocating energy. The air seemed to freeze, and the cold made everyone's teeth chatter. They were too scared to speak a word. What was his name? Feng Wu frowned. Tell him to come to me later. He'll need another blood-clotting pill to make a quick recovery. Feng Wu didn't know if she was mistaken, but when she asked for the person's name, the biting cold in the classroom seemed to ease a little. She went back to her seat after that. All she wanted was to get through this class safely. She wondered if her luck would hold out. Mr. Hu could barely remember what he had taught today. Realizing that it would still be a long while before the class ended, he felt like crying with frustration. He could only go back to his lecture. Jun Linyuan glanced casually at Feng Wu, only to realize that the girl had been reading her book this whole time without looking at him. Moreover, she hadn't looked at him since the beginning of the class. Did he annoy her that much? He poked Feng Wu's arm with his pen. Feng Wu moved her arm away and went on ignoring him. He poked her arm again. Feng Wu moved her arm off the desk altogether. Jun Linyuan bit his lower lip, displeased. A man in love was as good as an idiot. Although the Crown Prince hadn't realized how possessive he had become toward Feng Wu, He was in fact already under her spell. So, she had decided to ignore him, had she? Thump. Chapter 1040, Jun Lin Yuan. What the hell do you what? 1. Chapter 1040, Jun Lin Yuan. What the hell do you what? 1. Jun Lin Yuan smacked his desk. WEF. The students around him weren't the only ones scared. Even Mr. Who on the dais jumped at the sound. All eyes were on Jun Lin Yuan. He stared at Mr. Who with eyes that reminded one of a raging storm. You made too many mistakes. Mr. Who blanched. That comment from the Crown Prince would ruin his career. Mr. Who could try to argue his way out of it if the critique had been from someone else, but this was the Crown Prince. The teenager would mercilessly crush any different opinions, and Mr. Who couldn't even think about opposing him. Feng Wu frowned a little and darted a look at Jun Lin Yuan. He made errors on 2 figures and missed 3 key points, but everything else was fine. Surely it's nothing worth ruining his career over. And the so-called mistakes were only noticeable if one was really picky. To most people, Mr. Who was a good teacher. However, the other students only looked at Feng Wu sympathetically. What was wrong with Feng Wu? His Royal Highness was already targeting her. What she should be doing now was to stay out of sight. Instead, she had drawn more attention to herself. Did she have a death wish or something? Would the infuriated His Royal Highness throttle Feng Wu on the spot? At that thought, the look in their eyes turned even more sympathetic. However, to everyone's surprise, the Crown Prince did no such thing. Meanwhile, Jun Lin Yuan was secretly enjoying the moment, for he had finally caught her attention and she was no longer ignoring him. Trying to make the best use of this opportunity, Jun Lin Yuan rose to his feet and went up to the dais. Mr. Who stared at the Crown Prince in bewilderment. What was going on here? Feng Sun could read Jun Lin Yuan's mind. Before, he had made the wrong assumption about the Crown Prince and had been led further and further away down the wrong path. Ever since Xian corrected him, however, Feng Sun could see what Jun Lin Yuan was doing with a single glance. Hence, Feng Sun hurried over at once and half-dragged Mr. Who off the dais. Jun Lin Yuan stood there with a proud, authoritative look in his eyes. The students all remained seated, feeling anxious and flustered as they wondered what His Royal Highness was doing. It then occurred to them that this whole time, the Crown Prince had kept his intimidating gaze on Feng Wu, almost without blinking. It felt as if he wanted to eat the beautiful girl whole. How scary those eyes were. They then turned to look at Feng Wu. Despite being stared at by those terrifying eyes, Feng Wu remained seated with her back ramrod straight. The look on her face never changed, and her eyes looked calm. She was such a strong character. People began to ask themselves, if they were the ones being stared at, would they be able to stay as calm as Feng Wu? The answer was no. Did you just contradict me? Jun Lin Yuan asked in an arrogant, domineering manner. One could detect murderous intent in his brooding eyes. How scary those eyes were. The other students all lowered their eyes and kept their gazes on the floor, trying their best not to attract any attention. No one dared to look into Jun Lin Yuan's terrifying eyes. They could tell that the Crown Prince was genuinely mad and wanted revenge. Out of all the people Feng Wu could offend, it had to be the Crown Prince, who was as ferocious as any magical beast. Did she have a death wish? No one was bold enough to speak up for Feng Wu. Minding their own business was a much safer option. Feng Wu was displeased at being stared at by Jun Lin Yuan as she looked pissed. She was furious inwardly. She had done a good deed in proud Snowfield by saving Jun Lin Yuan's life. However, not only wasn't she thanked for it, she ran into even more trouble. Chapter 1041, Jun Lin Yuan. What the hell do you what? 2. Chapter 1041, Jun Lin Yuan. What the hell do you what? 2. Just when everyone thought that Feng Wu would give in and apologize, Feng Wu bolted up and glared at the Crown Prince. Jun Lin Yuan. What the hell do you want? Those words shocked everyone. Holy shit, little Feng Wu was She had just openly retorted to His Royal Highness like an arrogant peacock. His Royal Highness. She would be killed. Everyone began to throw her warning glances, reminding her to cherish her own life. She was so pretty and so smart that they would hate to see her die. But they had clearly thought wrong once again. Standing proudly on the platform with his hands behind his back, Jun Linyuan smirked. There seemed to be a dark red flicker in his black eyes. Little Feng Wu, I see that you really have a death wish. Feng Wu snorted. Bring it on. Do whatever you want. You don't scare me. Oh no. Everyone else cried out in their heads at what was about to happen. Feng Wu was so getting killed. The Crown Prince seemed provoked as well. So, I see that death really doesn't scare you. Feng Wu glowered at Jun Linyuan. What's there to be scared of? I'd love to see you try and kill me. She was in a bad mood after starting the day with Mu Yao Yao trying to frame her. Then Jun Linyuan, the most unpredictable guy, showed up, annoying Feng Wu even more. Death doesn't scare you. How about what happens to them? A dangerous look flickered in Jun Linyuan's black eyes. Feng Wu was baffled. Them? How do they have anything to do with this? Jun Linyuan grinned viciously. Since you already know so much, you'll be teaching the class today. Make one mistake, and all your classmates down there will pay. What's that supposed to mean? Feng Wu's pupils contracted. Jun Linyuan said, You know what I mean. Feng Wu flared up. You have a problem with me. Why take it out on them? Jun Linyuan said, Because you're not afraid of death. Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Jun Linyuan went on, But they are. Feng Wu stomped her foot. Jun Linyuan. She was sure that Jun Linyuan was doing this on purpose. The Crown Prince darted a satisfied glance at her, and he had a proud look on his handsome, chiseled face. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu fought back the urge to rush over and throttle him. All he ever did was bully her. Jun Linyuan's death threat didn't scare Feng Wu at all, but she couldn't say the same for the other students. One could tell how scared they were from their bloodless faces. Jun Linyuan wouldn't actually kill them, but if he wanted to vent his anger, he could easily make these students withdraw from the college. It would be a piece of cake for him. Feng Wu couldn't care less about such a threat to herself, but she would feel guilty if these students had to withdraw from school or suffered an accident because of her. The guilt would eventually become a burden to her cultivation. Thump! Feng Wu smacked the desk in frustration. She glared at Jun Linyuan without blinking. He was indeed a handsome man. With his well-defined bone structure and his exquisite features, he had a beauty that would take one's breath away and sweep them off their feet. However, with that lousy temper of his, he was just as abominable. You want me to teach this class? So be it. Bring it on. Feng Wu marched onto the dais. When she was in front of Jun Linyuan, she raised her foot to step down hard on his. Shit, the students were almost scared out of their wits. Did she want to be killed now? However, the instant Feng Wu's foot was about to land, Jun Linyuan shifted and moved to stand behind Feng Wu. Missing her target, Feng Wu lost her footing and pitched forward involuntarily. Her exquisite face was about to smash into the desk in the first row. Chapter 1042, Jun Linyuan. What the hell do you what? 3. Chapter 1042, Jun Linyuan. What the hell do you what? 3. With a wave of his hand, Jun Linyuan pulled Feng Wu back into his arms. Thump! Feng Wu's nose bumped into Jun Linyuan's chest, making her grunt. Shit! The students in the classroom were ready to sing an elegy for Feng Wu. She was so doomed. They believed that Feng Wu was really going to die. His Royal Highness would smash her head open like he was cracking open a watermelon. It was common knowledge that His Royal Highness was a neat freak. Wasn't there a rumor where some noble young lady touched His Royal Highness's sleeve and ended up having her entire arm cut off by the savage Crown Prince? Little Feng Wu had just flown into the Crown Prince's arms. Would he cut her into pieces? Duan Chaoga was so frightened that she wanted to stand up and cry out, Your Royal Highness, please don't kill Xiao Wu. However, she realized that she couldn't move. She felt as if she'd been wrapped inside a transparent, jelly cocoon, and she couldn't move no matter how hard she struggled. Flustered and anxious, Chowga almost burst into tears. Meanwhile, most of the other students in the classroom had covered their eyes and were peeking through their fingers, fearing what they might see. Gong Sun Qing eyed Feng Wu sympathetically. However scared she was of Jun Lin Yuan, she still recalled that Feng Wu saved her life once. Gritting her teeth, Gong Sun Qing rose to her feet. "Your Royal Highness, please spare Feng Wu's life." Her voice startled the two people on the dais, especially the proud crown prince. With Feng Wu's soft body in his arms, he was overwhelmed by the fragrance characteristic of teenage girls. There was a gentle look in the crown prince's eyes now, and he had almost forgotten where he was. All the girl ever did was run away from him, but now she wasn't going anywhere with she. However, what Gong Sun Qing said woke Jun Lin Yuan up from his daydream. Spare Feng Wu's life? Where had that come from? The look in the crown prince's black eyes was so cold that it scared the wits out of anyone. Looking into Jun Lin Yuan's eyes, Gong Sun Qing felt a cold sensation in her chest, and a chill also ran down her spine. That was so frightening. Feng Sun reached out and dragged Gong Sun Qing away. He then whispered, "Boss Jun won't kill little Feng Wu. All that guy ever did was piss Feng Wu off." But Gong Sun Qing didn't buy it. Clenching her fists, she looked rather sad. "Feng Wu is actually a really nice person. I haven't gotten around to telling her that I want to be her friend." Feng Sun gave Gong Sun Qing a sympathetic look. The girl had been misled the way he had been, thinking that Boss Jun hated little Feng Wu. Feng Sun couldn't remember how many times he had made a fool of himself, or gotten beaten up for it. Seeing the anxious looks on the students' faces, and recalling the silly things he had done to keep Boss Jun away from Feng Wu, Feng Sun felt so humiliated. Looking up at Jun Lin Yuan on the dais, Feng Sun was amazed at what Boss Jun had achieved. He liked the girl, but what he did made everyone think that he hated her. He would never be able to win a girl's heart this way. Feng Wu would only hate him for his actions. As expected, Feng Wu shoved Jun Lin Yuan away. "Don't touch me." The other students were all speechless. Jun Lin Yuan smirked. "I touch you? You think too highly of yourself." The other students all nodded, agreeing with him. If the crown prince wanted to do something to a girl, she would simply lie down willingly. Feng Wu obviously wasn't a candidate. Feng Wu was so mad that her head spun. She had made up her mind. Jun Lin Yuan had just become the person she hated the most, bumping Zhuo Qinghuan down to second place. Chapter 1043. That is no way to woo a girl. 1043. That is no way to woo a girl. To the other students' surprise, the crown prince stepped off the dais in the end. His long, straight legs took him off the dais at an unhurried pace. Scanning the classroom with his cold eyes, he reminded one of an emperor inspecting his land. His casual yet arrogant demeanor made one want to kneel at his feet. He was born to be a leader. He was born to rule the continent. Feng Wu, on the other hand, was still on the dais, without a scratch on her. She was still alive. Everyone exchanged looks of bewilderment and found it unbelievable. But that was what happened. They then turned to study the crown prince's face. Jun Lin Yuan had sat down in a chair, looking completely at ease. On his sculptured face, one could detect a faintly intrigued look in his beautiful eyes. He pursed his thin lips and was smiling a little. He began to tap the desk rhythmically with his slender fingers. Clearly, he was waiting for Feng Wu to make her move. That explained it. The students believed that His Royal Highness was going to fatten the pig before he slaughtered it. Feng Wu started her lecture by succinctly sketching out the points that Mr. Who had been vague on. She then moved on to the actual teaching. Feng Wu's talent was unquestionable. She had been taught by Mu Juzhou himself, and already knew enough to become an advanced tutor here in Imperial College. Teaching a simple Year 1 class was far from a challenge to her. On the dais, her eyes twinkled as she spoke in high spirits. Her face shone with the light of wisdom. In the sunlight, she reminded one of the first dew on a spring morning and was full of life. Her refreshing beauty could take one's breath away. Given Jun Linyuan's status and popularity, he had seen his fair share of girls, although he had ignored most of them. However, he had never met someone so attractive, who seemed to shine from within. Even someone as experienced as Jun Linyuan was infatuated, to say nothing of other people. Everyone was immersed in Feng Wu's teaching, amazed looks in their eyes. Scanning the room out of the corner of his eye, Jun Linyuan saw that all the boys in the classroom were fascinated by Feng Wu, and he didn't like that at all. Thump! Feng Wu was enjoying teaching when the crown prince smacked the desk. The sound made everyone jump. All of them had been hanging on to Feng Wu's every word, taking in the cultivation world she described and savoring the profound knowledge in her teaching. The more they chewed on her words, the more mysterious they found them to be. However, that train of thought was broken at that critical moment. All eyes turned to the man at the center of the classroom. No one dared to utter a word or express their anger, but they certainly weren't happy about it. Feng Wu had noticed that several students had almost reached epiphanies and had planned to continue teaching until they could break through. However, Jun Linyuan's interruption destroyed that opportunity for them. Feng Wu was infuriated. However, before she could speak, Jun Linyuan said, "Get your ass down here." Feng Wu's face turned livid. Behind Jun Linyuan, young Lord Feng and Xian exchanged looks and saw resignation in each other's eyes. Boss Jun was hopeless. Unlike the others, the way he courted a girl would actually push the girl further and further away. However, Jun Linyuan couldn't hear Feng Sun and Xian Yi's thoughts. At that moment, he was very displeased. So many pairs of infatuated eyes were glued to his woman, but she was completely clueless. How could he be happy? Chapter 1044, Bullying is Affection. 1044 Bullying is Affection. Didn't you hear me? Get the hell off that dais. How long did you plan to stand there and be gawked at for? There was a frown on Jun Linyuan's stunningly handsome face, and he looked displeased. He said, "I'll let you off the hook today. Interrupt the class again, and I'll have you kicked out of this college." He trusted that after this, no other boy would dare sit next to her or have a private conversation with her. Feng Wu was so frustrated. He was the one who made her give a lecture, and when everything was going fine, he told her to get her ass down from there. He had threatened her with her classmates' lives before cutting her off. So what if he was a crown prince? Big deal. Feng Wu was furious. Her cheeks flushed and blue veins popped in the corner of her forehead. Given the option, she would throttle Jun Linyuan right now. However, she had neither the capability nor the power. She would find the broken star pieces and cure her beautiful master. No one would pick on her again when her beautiful master was around. At that thought, Feng Wu threw a frustrated glance at Jun Linyuan, then ran out of the classroom. Feng Wu had run away. The other students stared in bewilderment. The crown prince had let Feng Wu run away. She was able to get away after offending his royal highness. The crown prince's face couldn't be any darker. His black eyes seemed to be covered with a bloody red mist. Rising to his feet, he stepped out on long legs, and the next second, he was nowhere to be seen. Feng Sun and Xian exchanged looks. Now that Boss Jun and Feng Wu were gone, there was no need for them to remain here any longer. Hence, they took off as well. They left as fast as they had come, and were out of sight in no time. A hush fell over the classroom. Outside, Feng Wu rushed out in frustration and needed an outlet for her anger. That Jun Linyuan was such a jerk. She would love to see him pull that arrogant stunt again after her beautiful master woke up. Feng Wu was still angrily headed for the school gate when a tall figure suddenly blocked her path. She had been walking with her head down as she complained inwardly about Jun Linyuan and hadn't been paying attention to where she was going. She bumped into the man. The impact made Feng Wu see stars. Cursing under her breath, she thought she had to be having the worst day of her life. Why did she keep bumping into people? However, her face turned livid as soon as she looked up. Jun Lin. Yuan. Feng Wu uttered his name through gritted teeth. Seeing Feng Wu's bruised nose and teary eyes, Jun Linyuan felt himself go soft inside. He raised a hand to touch Feng Wu's nose, but Feng Wu was on the alert and only backed away. She glared at him furiously. Just then, Feng Sun and Xian Yi arrived in a hurry. Feng Wu turned her teary eyes on Feng Sun. It pained Feng Sun to see her like that. That was his baby sister, and she looked as pitiful as a puppy dog. He couldn't bear to see her like this. Feng Sun rushed to her in a hurry. "Kiddo, what happened? Who did this to you?" Feng Wu glanced at Feng Sun with tears welling up in her eyes as she pointed at Jun Linyuan. "It's him. Now get revenge for me." Feng Sun rubbed his head with a bitter smile. As her big brother, he would have lunged at the guy who dared to pick on her. However, that guy just happened to be Boss Jun, and he was only bullying her as a way of showing his affection. "Come over here." Feng Sun led Feng Wu behind an old tree. He then said in a low voice, "My dear sister." Chapter 1045, Jun Linyuan, I hear that you like me. Chapter 1045, Jun Linyuan, I hear that you like me. Feng Wu stared at Feng Sun. "If I'm still your sister, beat him up for me." She decided that she would stop reasoning with him and do as she pleased. Feng Sun felt a headache coming on, and he tried to reason with her. "Dear sister, it's not what you think. Boss Jun is actually..." Feng Wu said, "Are you saying that he doesn't pick on me?" Feng Sun said, "No, he does do that." Feng Wu said, "So, your sister gets bullied, and you're going to do nothing? What kind of brother are you?" Feng Sun said, "You're my dearest sister, but some guys show their affection by picking on the girl they like. You see where I'm going with this?" Feng Sun knew that Boss Jun was beyond saving, but he might be able to persuade little Feng Wu. However, Feng Wu almost choked on her own breath after she heard that. Cough, cough. She flushed, gasping for air. "Sister, are you all right?" Feng Sun reached out to hold Feng Wu's hand, but she threw him off. She looked at Feng Sun as if he was an idiot. "Are you telling me that your boss Jun likes me?" Feng Sun nodded repeatedly. Yes, that's it. As unbelievable as it sounded, he was telling the truth. He had also learned it the hard way. Feng Wu said, "You're saying that your boss Jun is bullying me only because he likes me?" Feng Sun kept nodding. "Yes, that's right." Feng Wu gave him a "what an idiot" look. "Give me your hand." Was she trying to check her pulse? Did she think he was nuts? Feng Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He knew how unbelievable it sounded, but it didn't make what he said any less true. He tried to convince Feng Wu. "Xiao Wu, if you try to understand Boss Jun, you'll see that he actually likes you a lot." Feng Wu snorted. "He likes me? He bullies me because he likes me? By abusing me, setting me up, and annoying me? If that's how liking someone works, I'm sorry. That's too much affection for me to take." Feng Wu thought Feng Sun had lost his mind. From Feng Wu's point of view, Jun Linyuan had shown nothing but antagonism and repulsion toward her. He was mean, domineering, and vicious, and Feng Sun called that affection. Feng Sun scratched his head. He knew that Boss Jun had a strange way of courting a girl, but that didn't make what he said any less true. Feng Sun tried to convince Feng Wu, using what Xianyi told him before. However, he had only just started before Feng Wu pushed him away and ran off. She stood boldly in front of Jun Linyuan and met his gaze with her bloodshot eyes. She smirked. "Jun Linyuan, I heard that you like me. Is that true?" She took the initiative. That was so straightforward. Instantly, everything fell into a hush, and it became so quiet that everyone could hear their hearts beating. For a brief moment, Jun Linyuan forgot to breathe. He tensed up and his mind went blank. He didn't know what to do. He could see the taunting and scornful look in Feng Wu's eyes. Did he like her? Jun Linyuan didn't know the answer to that, but he did know that he couldn't admit it even if the answer was yes. The last thing he wanted was to be laughed at by this girl. Raising her chin proudly, Feng Wu sneered at Jun Linyuan. She then glowered. "Feng Sun said you like me. Is that true?" "Feng Sun." Jun Linyuan's pupils contracted, and a dark red mist seemed to blur his vision again. Chapter 1047, His Royal Highness. Chapter 1047, His Royal Highness. All the time she spent in the Tai formation paid off. After Feng Wu started cultivating, she felt the spiritual energy flow freely into her body without any hindrance at all. The spiritual essence ran into her body like mischievous fairies. She couldn't stop it even if she wanted to. Feng Wu was a level 6 spiritual grandmaster, and after 3 days, she reached perfection at that level. She was that close to making a breakthrough. But to achieve that required serendipity, and Feng Wu was stuck. The breakthrough just wouldn't happen. Feng Wu stopped cultivating and opened her eyes. Right after that, she met Grand Secretary Feng's knowing eyes, which still had a surprised look in them that he wasn't quick enough to hide. "You're about to make a breakthrough again?" Grand Secretary Feng looked at Feng Wu in amazement. He had never seen a kid make such swift progress. She had only just leveled up, but she was ready to move on to the next level again. Feng Wu smiled. "The Tai formation is as amazing as it's said to be. It only takes me half the time to cultivate." Feng Wu had thought that it would be a while before she reached the spiritual elder stage. As it turned out, she didn't have to wait that long. A spiritual elder. That was what Zhuo Qingwan was now. Just then, there was knocking on the door outside. Feng Wu looked at Grand Secretary Feng in bewilderment. Grand Secretary Feng frowned. "It's them again." "Them?" Feng Wu asked curiously. Grand Secretary Feng frowned a little and didn't reply. Steward Feng answered with a wry smile. "Ever since my old master's sensational breakthrough, a lot more people started visiting us. It used to be very quiet here." Feng Wu could see why that was the case. After his retirement, Grand Secretary Feng had had far less visitors. However, now that he had been promoted to principal of Imperial College, and with his capability now on par with Mr. Liu's, it was only natural that more people would start to show up. It was just that Grand Secretary Feng had turned all of them away to have some peace and quiet. Since the Tai formation extended all the way to encompass Fallen Star Yard, Feng Wu could cultivate at home as well. Xiuling, Uncle Qiu, and Xiaogo were all absorbing the spiritual essence and working on their cultivation there. Feng Wu came back to Fallen Star Yard to find the place very quiet. Everyone was working hard. As she was free at the moment, which was very rare, Feng Wu sat down under the grape trellis and considered her current situation. Since she had found the first broken star piece, it was time she started looking for the second one. Feng Wu couldn't wait to get all the pieces. But where could the second piece be? Feng Wu had no idea at all, but she faintly recalled that Jun Linyuan had mentioned that it was an Imperial College. Feng Wu couldn't sit still anymore. She ran next door to Grand Secretary Feng. Broken star pieces? Grand Secretary Feng frowned. Feng Wu asked, "Have you never heard of them?" Grand Secretary Feng shook his head. "As a matter of fact, I haven't. Are they very important?" Feng Wu seldom looked this serious. "More important than my life." Grand Secretary Feng didn't say anything in reply. It seemed that they were really very important. Maybe the other elders know about it. Hold on. Grand Secretary Feng then contacted the others. Feng Wu waited patiently. Meanwhile, in the Crown Prince's residence, Feng and Granny Gong stood outside the study in utter silence, exchanging not a single word. Granny Gong then heaved a sigh. His Royal Highness has shut himself inside for 2 days. When is he going to break free of this mood? Feng looked up at the sky. Chapter 1048, Broken Star Pieces. Chapter 1048, Broken Star Pieces. Because of the Crown Prince's rage, dark clouds had gathered overhead, covering the entire sky over the residence. Cold air filled the place, and everyone was as silent as cicadas in autumn. It was too scary for them to utter a word. Feng sighed in resignation. Chang San, the captain of the guards in the residence, was standing next to Feng's side at the moment. "Mr. Feng, His Royal Highness has been in a bad mood for 2 days. It's never been this long before." Chang San pulled a long face. He must have reprimanded over 100 officials and generals already. Reprimand was an understatement. To be more precise, he had given them absolute hell. Feng smiled bitterly. It had really been going on for too long. Who offended His Royal Highness this time? Chang'sen cringed. And when is it going to end? Luckily, His Royal Highness had only lashed out at the civil and military officials and the generals of the Imperial Guards. None of his close subordinates had been affected yet. But who knew what could happen if his mood stayed like this? Just then, Chang'sen, get you ass in here. The Crown Prince's grumpy voice came from inside the room. Chang'sen's eyes widened, and he turned to Feng for help. What should he do now? Feng and Granny Gong looked the other way, as if they hadn't heard a thing. Chang'sen had to force himself to go in when, in fact, he wanted to cry for help. Soon, they hear angry roars from inside. Both Feng and Granny Gong felt their stomachs lurch. Chang'sen came out about 15 minutes later with blood oozing from his ears, nostrils, and the corner of his mouth. He looked listless. When the captain saw Feng, he almost burst into tears. Who on earth offended His Royal Highness? Chang'sen hadn't seen that coming, and he was devastated. Who do you think? Feng darted a glance at Chang'sen. Luckily, Chang'sen was no fool. He saw the light right away. Do you mean Miss Feng Wu? Feng raised his head, looking like he knew nothing at all. Rolling up his sleeves, Chang'sen headed for the door. Feng asked, "Where are you going?" Chang'sen said, "To find him a fire extinguisher." And he didn't go alone. Together with a team of his men, Chang'sen headed for the Feng Manor. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was waiting for the result of Grand Secretary Feng's inquiry. If Grand Secretary Feng could find a lead on the broken star pieces, she wouldn't have to go to Jun Lin Yuan anymore. God knew how irritated she was even at just the thought of Jun Lin Yuan. The anger was simply uncontrollable. How did it go? Feng Wu stared at Grand Secretary Feng nervously. Grand Secretary Feng nodded at her. I don't have the exact location of the broken star pieces, but I have a lead. Really? Feng Wu's eyes lit up. Something was better than nothing. She could work with that. What lead? Feng Wu stared at Grand Secretary Feng earnestly. Grand Secretary Feng was secretly surprised. He had never seen the girl so devoted to something. He told her, Xinyuan Kuan is the person you should start working on. As an elder Xinyuan? Feng Wu's eyes flickered. Elder Xinyuan was one of the 7 members of the Education Board, and back in Yu's office, that old man had wanted Feng Wu dead. Grand Secretary Feng recalled the incident as well, and his face darkened. Xinyuan Kuan isn't exactly your friend. Moreover, the Xinyuan clan has close ties with the Zhou clan. By now, Grand Secretary Feng had learned about the enmity between Feng Wu and Zhou Qingyuan. He couldn't help but worry about her dealing with the Zhou family. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.